Life usually starts with a cry, but for this kid, it starts with a whole other life. A stranger's story plays out in his sleep, showing him every moment of a different world. The dream ends in a wreck, with sirens wailing in the rain. Our boy jolts awake in a cold sweat, desperate to escape the nightmare. Reality sets in as he finds himself in a huge bed inside a fancy room. What was that? He asks himself as he looks around the foreign space. It feels too real to be just a dream. These memories of cars and college physics are as clear as if he lived through them himself. The pressure of two different lives is almost too much to handle. Tears hit the sheets as the weight of two lives finally crashes down. Memories of a skyscraper skyline flicker like a dying screen as he questions if he is mourning a lost fiancé or just a world that actually made sense. A sudden knock at the door brings him back to the present. The maid calls for Master Arcus, and he manages a quick, "Thank you," despite the mental chaos. A tray slams down right in front of him, and the service is anything but 5-star. One look at the mess of food and the snickering maid tells him exactly where he stands. "What a perfect meal," she mocks for the former heir. Instead of getting mad, he just offers a quiet thank you and says the food looks delicious. He stays calm, keeping his head down for now. The word former lingers in the air. In this world, magic is everything, and without it, you are nothing. The Wraitheft house built its legacy on the battlefield with high-level spells. As the eldest son, the expectations for him were through the roof. Back to a week ago, everything changed the moment his official ether assessment went live. The results were a disaster. The murmurs from the crowd were brutal, claiming he was not worthy to be the family head and calling his power average. He begged for just one more shot, promising he would get it right this time. As he clung to his father's coat, his whole world was hanging by a thread. His father delivers a heavy strike that sends him spinning to the floor. The family officially cuts him off and strips him of his title. The parents scream that he is nothing but a worthless piece of trash. Reality sets in as their words cut deeper than any physical blow. They walk away without a single backward glance, leaving him alone in the dark. He is left with nothing but the crushing weight of his failure. Back in the present, Arcus is hitting the books hard to find a way out of this mess. He has a whole second life of memories to draw from, but none of it helps him increase his power. The floor becomes his bed as he realizes even 20 years of modern knowledge might be useless in this world. A sudden knock at the door breaks his train of thought. A little girl peeks her head into the room to see if her favorite big brother is still busy. This is Lucia, and she enters with a wide smile and a playful giggle. She rushes into his arms and begs for some playtime. Arcus picks her up, clearly taken aback that she even wants to be around him after everything. Arcus looks down at his little sister, reminding her that their parents forbid them from hanging out. Lucia admits she was told to avoid him, but she clearly does not care. She clings to him tightly and screams that she just wants to play with her big brother. Arcus finally gives in and pats her head as she declares her love for him. For a second, things feel almost normal. Looking back, her kindness was the only thing keeping him going. Then a loud bang echoes through the room as someone screams his name. The vibes instantly turn sour as his father barges in with a squad of servants. "Take Lucia outside," he orders, and she is yanked out of the room before Arcus can even blink. Arcus scrambles back in fear, begging his parents for forgiveness. He tries to take all the blame, desperately hoping they will not punish his sister. His father is not interested in excuses. Obviously, he shouts as a heavy strike sends the boy spinning across the floor. His father towers over him, screaming that he needs to stay away. Since Lucia is the actual heir to the estate, Arcus is treated like a complete outsider. Our boy mumbles a desperate apology, but it clearly falls on deaf ears. A heavy boot connects with his face, sending him slamming into the hard floor. The old man is beyond livid, wondering out loud what he is supposed to do with a failure. He is terrified that Arcus's lack of talent might actually be contagious. He gets snatched up by the collar as the lecture continues. A brutal smack across the face follows, emphasizing that this is his final warning. The beatdown does not stop there, and the servants just stand around like it is a normal Tuesday. Even as he gets called a disgusting mutt, the fire in his eyes proves he is not broken yet. The thread of magic hangs in the air as his father promises things will get way worse next time. Arcus can only offer a weak confirmation as the heavy doors slam shut. His face is on fire from the strikes, and he struggles just to stay upright. Alone in the dark, the crushing weight of his reality finally starts to sink in. Arcus walks through a gauntlet of whispers as the servants openly mock his lack of magic. They call him a repulsive failure, and even gossip that he is actually Lucia's cousin rather than her brother. The insults cut deep as they wonder out loud why the family hasn't just tossed him out yet. Back in his room, he shuts the door and slides down against the wood. His hands won't stop shaking as he stares at the floor, trying to find his breath. He pulls his knees tight and starts laughing at the empty room. A wide grin spreads across his face as he tries to block out everything that just happened. Memories of another life suddenly flood back, reminding him that he's lived 20 years as someone else. He remembers being a student in a modern world, getting bullied by classmates while carrying a heavy backpack. He remembers walking home with a heavy backpack and a fake smile. His old parents could see right through it, asking if things went wrong at school that day. Tears stream down his face as he remembers them promising to stay by his side no matter what. He reaches out toward the memory of them calling his name one last time. He holds onto the memory of the parents who actually cared about him. It is a quiet moment from a life where he actually felt like he belonged. The vision fades and leaves him alone to sob in the dark. Arcus hits the floor as the weight of his failure finally crushes him. He questions why lacking potential justifies this level of abuse and blames everything on his lack of ether. At this point, he feels completely powerless to change his fate. The weight of 2 rough lifetimes almost crushes his spirit. He wonders if it would have been better if he had never been born until he remembers standing his ground against bullies in his past life. He realizes that even when he knew he could not win, he still chose to fight. If that version of him could handle it, then he definitely can too. His fist clenches tight as that old spark of defiance finally returns. He refuses to let this world break his spirit. Through the tears, he vows to become a magician so powerful it defies logic. He is going to show his parents exactly how much they messed up by writing him off. Back at the Wraitheft estate, our boy is officially on his grind. He is done playing the victim and is ready to take action to prove his parents wrong. The sun is already peeking through the windows while he stays buried in a mountain of books. He is figuring out that magic is basically just using specific words to rewrite the world. His eyes are burning from the morning light. It seems the magic in this world is way more open-ended than the fictional systems he remembers from his past life. Everything runs on an ancient language known as the Elder Tongue. The characters look suspiciously like the zodiac and star symbols from back home. He starts treating spells like a grammar lesson. Each glyph is just a piece of vocabulary that needs a splash of ether to wake up. Of course, it is never that easy. If he messes up the math on the energy requirements, the whole spell just stalls out. Time to get moving. He realizes that even with his modern knowledge, he still needs to build a full library of spells and find a way to power them. Our boy is hitting a major wall, realizing that no amount of reading can fix his naturally low ether count. He is basically having a mental breakdown because nobody is willing to teach a supposed failure like him. The sounds of a carriage and horses outside break his spiral, making him wonder what all the noise is about. A massive, energetic guy waves up at the balcony with a huge grin. Arcus recognizes him immediately as his Uncle Crabe. The vibe completely shifts as the family gathers in the parlor for tea. Crabe is a total breath of fresh air, laughing about how much the kids have grown since his last visit. Crabe starts messing with Arcus, surprised that the kid is already talking like a refined gentleman. Lucia jumps in to brag about how hard her big brother has been studying. Crabe Abend is the black sheep of the family and the brother of Arcus's father, Joshua Wraitheft. Just like Arcus, Crabe was disinherited for having no ether, but he didn't let that stop him. He ditched the estate, became a military legend, and now his combat skills are said to be even higher than the head of the house. Arcus is just starting to hope his uncle can help when a door slam kills the vibe. His parents are standing there and they look ready for a fight. Joshua is ready to start something until he sees who is on the couch. Uncle Crabe just gives a casual wave like they were hanging out yesterday. The reunion gets cut short as Joshua turns his rage back onto Arcus. He screams that a failure has no business being in the room with the family. Losing his cool, Joshua raises his hand to teach the kid another lesson. He wants the boy out of his sight immediately. Before the hit can land, Crabe is on his feet and calling a hard stop to the madness. He stares his brother down and asks what kind of man hits his own kid. Stuttering about magical talent, Joshua claims Arcus is a zero who does not deserve the name. Lucia is the only legitimate heir in his eyes. Lucia clenches her dress in silence while Arcus watches her. Crabe takes in the toxic environment and just looks at them. Crabe stands his ground, arguing that it is way too early to write off a 6-year-old. Joshua just scoffs, calling the idea nothing but wishful thinking. Joshua makes it clear that their family has no room for the talentless. Crabe just rubs his head clearly over the toxic behavior. Things get personal as Crabe asks if he even remembers what their own father said before he died. Joshua looks like he is about to pop a vein. Joshua snaps, yelling that the past is irrelevant and the boy simply isn't worthy. Tension fills the room as a fist clenches tight. The verbal abuse does not stop, with Joshua calling his own son a worthless stray dog. Our boy just stands there in silence, hearing every hateful word. Uncle Crabe is finally done with the games. He stares his brother down, disgusted that any parent could talk about their own kid like that. Just as things get heated, Arcus breaks the silence. He steps forward and tells his uncle he has a favor to ask. Arcus stands tall and shocks the room by asking his uncle for magic lessons. His father immediately reaches his boiling point, while Crabe is genuinely curious if the kid is actually serious. There is no hesitation in his voice. Our boy begs for the tutoring, determined to change his fate right here. No more crying and no more fear. He is finally choosing to take action instead of waiting for permission. Uncle Crabe catches the fire in the kid's eyes and cannot help but be impressed by that level of resolve. Joshua screams about the family honor, but our MC shuts him down with cold logic. He claims he is only doing this to restore the house of Wraitheft. He starts his plea with a simple condition. If he can prove his talent, he believes the family should no longer be ashamed of him. A final challenge is thrown down as he looks his father dead in the eye and waits for a response. Crabe laughs it off and tells his brother to take it easy. Joshua looks like he is about to lose his mind from the disrespect. He leans in with a smirk, calling out Joshua's insecurities about their father's expectations. The atmosphere in the room gets ice cold. Crabe turns his attention back to Arcus and officially agrees to be his teacher. Our boy is so overwhelmed he looks like he is about to short-circuit. Arcus drops a deep bow of gratitude, finally securing a mentor who actually believes in him. The master just laughs, warning the kid that he will not be going easy. The scene cuts to the mansion grounds as the training arc officially kicks off. Welcome to the open-air classroom where Crabe is already hyping up the vibes. Arcus snaps to attention, ready to give it everything he has. Our MC shouts his resolve to the sky, vowing to become the greatest magician and prove his parents wrong. Crabe is absolutely loving the energy. Crabe notices Arcus already knows the basics, so he decides to skip the boring stuff and go straight to a demo. He points out a target in the distance and tells the kid to watch closely. The vibe shifts as Crabe begins his chant, calling on his inner wrath to turn into a scorching flame. Magic circles start spinning around his hand as the mana begins to overflow. A massive burning arrow blasts forward and completely deletes the training dummy. Crabe looks back at the starstruck kid and tells him that this is what real magic looks like. Our boy is starstruck after seeing real combat magic up close for the first time. He shouts to his uncle that the display was incredible. Crabe tells him that mastering this is just the bare minimum for the battlefield. Arcus gulps at the mention of actual combat as they head back to basics. Training starts with a poke to the gut. Crabe explains that the first step is learning to control his ether. He tells the kid to find the shapeless energy inside and focus. Arcus takes a deep breath and starts locking in. It actually works. Arcus feels a warm energy flowing through him like a vapor as he finally gets a grip on his power. Crabe gives him the pass but says the real challenge is keeping that focus while moving around. He mentions that high-level mastery allows for some wild stunts. Crabe suddenly asks if Lucia's room is in the west wing on the 3rd floor. Arcus confirms the location but panics when he realizes his uncle might be planning something reckless. Arcus is losing his mind after realizing he actually sensed energy. Crabe casually breaks the news that humans and spirits are all packed with ether. The uncle takes a massive victory lap. He claims he is the one who figured out the secret to sniffing out power levels. Our boy is officially a fan. Crabe confirms he can track every single person around with perfect accuracy, and Arcus is starstruck by the possibilities. The kid tries to get serious, but Crabe just wants to throw shade. He mentions that even Joshua can't pull off this trick, which only makes Arcus more determined to master it. Arcus asks the million-dollar question. He wants to know how to measure the exact amount of energy for a spell since his books were completely useless. The tension is real. Arcus leans in for the wisdom, while Crabe acknowledges the kid actually picked up on the hardest part of casting. The grand reveal is a total flop. Crabe tells him the answer is just intuition, leaving Arcus looking like his brain just short-circuited. Crabe drops the bombshell that magic can't actually be measured. He tells the kid to just trust his gut, which is the last thing a logic-based nerd wants to hear. Arcus looks like he's ready to pack it in, but his uncle isn't done. He tells the boy they are only just getting started with the real training. Uncle Crabe tosses a stack of heavy bricks at him. He asks what the kid has even been doing to learn the Elder Tongue while Arcus struggles under the weight. Our boy reveals he has been grinding with basic dictionaries. Crabe calls him an amateur, and the disrespect hit Arcus like a freight train. The uncle hits him with a confident smirk. He explains that those books are actually the legendary Ancient Chronicles. This set of 6 titles holds the entire Elder Tongue. It's the collection of knowledge for any aspiring mage. These chronicles are stacked with lore, starting with a volume on how the world was created. The second book covers the observations of an ancient scholar, while the third describes a time when spirits roamed the earth. Book 4 dives into the peak of magical civilization. Then we have the Prophecy of Shadows, a guide for the entire history and future of the world. The final volume is pure nightmare fuel, detailing 4 demons destined to end it all. Arcus lets out a heavy gulp as the scale of his new homework assignment starts to sink in. Apparently, nobody has ever actually finished the whole series, a fact that leaves our boy shook. Even the legendary uncle admits he is lost when it comes to the deep lore, especially the volume about shadows. Turning serious, Crabe explains that if he wants to be the GOAT, he has to understand every single word and its origin. Our boy is already buried in a tower of books, but a new volume drops on his head as Crabe promises there is more to come. As Arcus walks off with his haul, he starts wondering if he can really crack the code of every book. Crabe smirks and tells him that success would put his name in the history books. Uncle Crabe reminds him he has to walk before he can run, and he is actually starting to dig the kid's vibe. He promises not to let all that hard work go to waste. Our boy is hyped as he clutches his new tower of books. Crabe laughs and vows to get him up to speed on the magic game. With the legend's help and his past life memories, the future is looking bright. He even thinks he might be able to find a way to boost his low ether levels. Cut to 1 month later, and the struggle is real. Despite all the reading, he has found 0 leads on boosting his energy, and the gloom is hitting hard. Instead of quitting, he starts testing a new concept called kneading ether. He stays at it for hours, focusing all his energy into his hands. Something feels off as he keeps grinding. He realizes he might actually be consuming his own energy. Suddenly, everything shifts as a massive surge of power erupts right in front of him. Arcus is panicking as his magic starts burning way too hot. He realizes he went too far and has no idea how to turn it off. Instead of fixing the problem, he decides to just leave it and deal with it later. By the time he looks up, it is already pitch black outside and he has completely lost track of time. He heads out into the hall to find some food, but he runs right into his father. Joshua sees the book and immediately starts questioning his magic studies. Joshua tells him that his low energy levels will always make him a failure. Arcus stands his ground, arguing that raw power is not the only thing that makes a good mage. Joshua snaps and backhands him into the floor. He leaves the boy there, calling him a nuisance and walking off without another word. Lucia finds him sitting on the ground a moment later. She is clearly worried and asks her brother if he is okay. She starts sobbing as she realizes her brother is actually bleeding. She is terrified for him and can barely get her words out. Arcus puts on a brave face to keep his sister from spiraling. He tries to play it off as nothing, but Lucia is too busy blaming herself to listen. She clings to him like he is going to disappear, convinced her status as the heir is the reason he is suffering. Her guilt is coming out in a flood of tears and apologies. He keeps his voice steady and reminds her that none of this is her fault. Lucia just wants the family drama to end so they can go back to being normal siblings. A dark edge creeps into his thoughts as he holds her. He realizes that simply being better than a failure is not enough to change their destiny in this house. This is the moment he decides he is done letting his parents dictate their lives. He makes a silent promise to settle this mess on his own terms. The scene jumps 2 years ahead to a sunny afternoon at the mansion. A mentor's voice rings out, demanding to see the results of all his hard work. Back on his feet with more confidence than ever, Arcus starts his incantation. He is ready to turn all that suppressed anger into a roaring fire. Arcus channels his energy and commands the flame to incinerate everything in its path. He pushes his hands forward with a final shout of Flamlaroon. A burst of magic erupts from a glowing circle. Crabe stands back and gives props for the display. Arcus catches his breath while the wind settles around him. A confident smile finally hits his face. Our boy stands tall in his new gear and offers a simple thanks to his uncle. This merchant is losing his mind over a lantern. He is hyped because the carving on the seal is top tier and looks like professional work. The man goes on about how the seals Arcus carves are always practically flawless. These are going to be perfect for the shop's next batch of soul glasses. Payday has arrived. The shopkeeper drops 2 heavy bags of silver on the counter for the materials and the hard work. Our boy is literally glowing as he takes his cut. He promises to bring more inventory back to the shop as soon as possible. He struts out of the building with a win. His repertoire of magical seals has come a long way since he started this secret training arc. These lanterns are everywhere in the kingdom. They use art glyphs to handle daily tasks like lighting up rooms or starting fires. This was all part of the plan. Uncle Crabe taught him that carving seals is the best way to sharpen his magic while making some serious cash. Arcus is feeling good about his heavy pockets and plans to buy some new reading material. His shopping spree is cut short when a hooded figure sprints past him at full speed. The collision is unavoidable as they slam into each other with a loud bonk. Arcus tries to steady himself while the mysterious girl starts drifting through the air like she is weightless. She lands with surprising grace and immediately checks if our boy is still in one piece. He is fine, but the vibe shifts as he realizes he is holding hands with a total stranger. Before they can even exchange names, a group of sketchy guys in hoods starts hunting for her. Arcus does not hesitate, grabbing her hand and leading the escape through the city streets. They duck into a narrow alleyway and hold their breath while the search party walks right past them. The hunters are clearly losing their patience as they decide to check another sector. Once the coast is clear, they finally take a second to breathe. The girl is absolutely winded from the cardio, but she is glad they managed to shake the tail. Arcus asks the obvious question about why a small army is chasing her. She has no clue, claiming they just swarmed her out of nowhere and refused to let up. She is all smiles as she formally introduces herself as Sue and thanks him for the rescue. Arcus plays it cool and reaches out to shake her hand, letting her know he is just glad to help. They seal the deal with a handshake, but Sue immediately starts grilling him about where he came from. He tries to suggest heading back to the main road, but she shuts him down with a sharp command to stay quiet. The sound of heavy footsteps echoing nearby sends Arcus into high alert. They duck behind a wall to stay out of sight, wondering if the hunters are already looping back for them. As they push deeper into the side streets, Arcus gets a sinking feeling that they are walking into a trap. His instincts were spot on because they just ran straight into a towering brick wall. It is a dead end, and Arcus is starting to realize their escape route is officially cooked. There is no time to backtrack before a creepy voice laughs from the shadows. A hooded figure finally catches up to them, and he is clearly enjoying the fact that they have nowhere left to run. The hooded creep steps out of the shadows, reminding them that the chase is officially over. Sue shouts, demanding to know how he tracked them down so easily. A smug grin is the only answer she gets as he claims he just kept looking until he found them. Sue cannot believe how fast he closed the gap, but Arcus is already calculating. He realizes this guy must be using magic to buff his physical stats. The man's smile widens as he confirms the theory with a creepy laugh. It is official, and they are facing off against an actual magician. Arcus demands to know if he is just some low-life kidnapper. The guy does not even try to deny it, admitting he is just in it for the quick cash. He points right at Sue, claiming a girl like her will sell for a fortune. He is not stopping there, laughing as he eyes Arcus as a potential payday too. The disrespect is too much to handle as Arcus finally reaches his limit. Things get even darker as the magician promises to make them pay for making him run around. Our MC realizes they are in a terrible spot, cornered by a grown man with real magical power. Arcus tries to find an opening, hoping the guy will underestimate them because they are kids. While the creep plays around with which spell to use, Arcus finally lands on a plan. The magician starts chanting a complex binding spell, calling for his power to take the form of a rope and incinerate the darkness to punish them. Shocked by the sight of an original spell, our MC watches as Sue gathers a brilliant aura. She concentrates hard, closing her eyes and whispering the final commands to set the magic forth. Energy blasts upward as Sue releases her power, forcing the man to throw up a quick shield. A close look at the barrier reveals it is thin, and Arcus is sure it cannot handle the pressure. Instead of panicking, the man starts laughing with total confidence that the attack is going to fail. Disbelief hits Sue when her magic does nothing, and the man mocks her for trying such a flashy move. He brushes it off with a smirk, claiming she just used the wrong wording. Arcus breaks down the logic, noting that the spell was specifically built for the night. Because her chant mentioned incinerating darkness, it has no juice during the day. The man lets out a mocking laugh, impressed that Arcus actually knows his stuff. He assumes the boy must come from a wealthy family given his knowledge. Glancing at the boy's silver hair, the man smirks. To a kidnapper like him, a rare trait like that just means a much bigger payday. Sue sticks her tongue out and calls him a pathetic loser for picking on kids. The man just shrugs it off, saying he can always use magic to patch them up before selling them. Arcus grits his teeth, looking for any opening while the man remains overconfident. He knows they only have one chance to catch this guy off guard. Reaching into her clothes, Sue pulls out a hidden tool. She warns Arcus to cover his ears because things are about to get extremely loud. The kidnapper screams in confusion, feeling a heavy surge of ether filling the alley. He has no idea where all this power is even coming from. Arcus takes the lead, chanting a weirdly poetic spell about a greedy man and an unprejudiced arm. Both Sue and the thug are left speechless as the vibe of the whole fight shifts in a second. Arcus drops a poetic verse about a greedy man wanting everything, leaving everyone in the alley completely confused. He finishes the chant by offering up an unprejudiced right arm to take it all. Suddenly, a massive limb made of trash, gears, and bottles manifests above the boy like a scrap metal golem arm. Sue and the kidnapper can only stare in disbelief as the scale of his magic flips the script. Our boy doesn't waste a second, screaming out the name of his new move, Scrapped Arms. He lunges forward with the weight of an entire junkyard behind him. The kidnapper tries to play it cool, laughing that the attack will never reach him from that distance. Arcus just narrows his eyes, clearly planning something much worse. Distance isn't an issue when you can just launch the whole thing like a projectile. Arcus calls out for a rocket punch, firing the massive heap of debris straight at the thug's face. The guy gets absolutely leveled by the flying junk, screaming as the metal and stone tear right through him. As the dust settles, Arcus stands his ground, looking like a total boss while Sue watches the aftermath. Starting off with a win, Sue is ready to blow the roof off with a victory cheer. Arcus isn't having it and shuts her down before she can finish. He is not about to let a jinx ruin their hard-won victory. He explains that victory cries usually let the enemy recover. Sue wonders about his logic. Arcus dives into his past life memories to explain why victory cheers are a bad idea. He remembers a woman firing a gun and asking the forbidden question if they got the target. The memory immediately turns into a disaster with her screaming, proving that jinxing the win is a one-way ticket to a game over. Arcus treats these survival tropes as law. Sue remains confused by his specific paranoia. The confusion vanishes. She gets in his personal space, demanding to know his junk spell secret. Sue turns into a full magic nerd. She has never seen a debris projectile and wants answers. Our boy realizes she is obsessed. He tries to ignore her shouting and focus on the downed kidnapper. Sue is riding a major magic high, but Arcus stays on high alert. He points toward the downed magician and warns her that they need to make sure the guy is actually out cold. Sue wonders if the coast is clear as Arcus starts suggesting they use a binding spell. Before he can finish the sentence, a hand twitches and yanks him toward the ground. The kidnapper was not finished yet. He lunges up and catches our boy in a chokehold, complaining about how much of a headache these kids have been. The guy starts venting about his bad career choices while Arcus struggles to get free. He clamps a hand over the kid's mouth to silence the muffled insults. He gives Sue a cold warning to stay right where she is. Any spell she tries to cast at this distance will probably hit her friend instead of him. Sue is stuck in a total deadlock and cannot find a way to help. Arcus is fuming as he realizes they have been completely outplayed. He curses his luck while his brain works overtime to find a solution. There has to be some way to break this hold. Arcus is gasping for air while a hand crushes his face. He remembers that wild ether surge from his training and decides to gamble on it. The kidnapper realizes something is wrong just as the boy goes for broke. It is all or nothing. A massive burst of light erupts from his chest and blinds everything in the alley. The shockwave is so strong it practically tears the air apart. The kidnapper screams as the force sends him flying backwards. Arcus hits the ground hard after the discharge. Sue rushes over to check on him while he groans from the impact. He asks about the guy while trying to catch his breath. They look over at the target who is face down and twitching in the dirt. He is definitely out of the fight for now. Sue leans in with a look of pure confusion. She asks if that explosion was just a really massive fart, and our boy immediately shuts that down. Sue is genuinely shook that it was actually ether. Our boy is still fighting for his life in this argument, doubling down that his magic definitely was not a fart. The city guard finally shows up to check if they are okay. Sue tells Arcus to stop being a total weirdo and quit making embarrassing claims about his gas. The officers are impressed and ask if these two kids really took down a whole adult alone. Meanwhile, the kidnapper is looking like a husk of a man in the background. Sue gives our MC all the credit and yanks him forward to show him off to the guards. She leans in with a look that has him frozen in place. She takes off running and officially introduces herself as Sue. Arcus follows behind and finally gives her his full name. She stops and gets right in his face to ask if the Wraithefs are actually nobles. When he confirms it, she seems genuinely surprised that he comes from such good stock. She starts squishing his cheeks and realizes they are incredibly soft. Our boy is just confused while his face gets handled like Play-Doh. Sue goes full drama queen and asks if he is going to report her to the guards or demand some weird payment. Arcus is visibly losing his mind at how fast this conversation went off the rails. She clarifies that by payment, she meant selling his organs or an arm on the black market. It is safe to say this girl has a very twisted view of how nobles operate. The dark joke lands and they both break into a fit of laughter. Once they catch their breath, Sue immediately starts grilling him for details about that crazy spell. They grab some street food while Sue keeps the hype train moving. She is genuinely blown away that a little kid could invent a spell that looks that cool. Our boy tries to act humble while stuffing his face, but Sue is not having it. She admits her own attempts at making original magic always end in a total mess. She is mostly impressed that he realized why her spell failed before she even did. In her eyes, he is basically a certified genius. As they look out over the city lights, she drops a major request. She wants Arcus to officially become her magic teacher. He finally caves and gives her the green light. Sue is hyped, throwing her hands up in a victory lap. She heads off with a light step. Looking back with a genuine smile, she thanks him for the day and says she is already looking forward to their next meetup. We kicks off in the lab with a desk buried under a mountain of research. Arcus is fully locked into the grind, pen in hand as he prepares to put his experimental theories to the test. The time for theory is over, and he is ready to start breaking the laws of magic. He focuses his energy into a wooden seal, watching the light flare up. Consistency is finally happening. He notes that the results from the hot ether are exactly what he wanted. The piece is shattered when Licia busts through the door. A loud bang rocks the building after he loses control. Our boy is slumped over and smoking from the blast. Licia panics, rushing over to make sure he is okay. She starts crying, saying she never meant to scare him that bad. He just gives her a weak smile while she tugs on his hand. He knows this one was on him for being so jumpy. Licia jumps in to help clean up the absolute disaster and spots a magical seal on the floor. She is hyped to see him carving seals already. Our boy tries to act humble, while she admits her own magic training is just beginning. He takes the seal back and asks how her progress is going. She is convinced he has already mastered a ton of high-level spells. Just the basics for now. He remembers how his uncle practically worked him to the bone just to master a fire spell. Licia is glowing with admiration. He tells her she will get there soon, and she promises to give it her all. Time to clean up in a flash. Arcus starts his magic, but Licia notices something weird about the silver beads on the ground. They both lean in as the sorcerer's silver starts expanding. It is a gorgeous sight, and even Arcus did not expect his magic to react like this. The silver beads start vibrating like crazy before letting out a strange glow. Our boy realizes they are actually pulsing, while his sister thinks they look just like tiny eggs. This property is completely new, and Arcus is pretty sure he accidentally altered the silver. He goes into full detective mode trying to figure out what went wrong. He was only using it for seals and never cast a single spell. It makes no sense for the material to change like this on its own. He wonders if it is reacting to his unique ether kneading technique. He leans in closer to get a better look at the strange reaction. Lecia is amazed by how much the silver expanded, but Arcus is worried the material might be totally useless now. He spots a thermometer on the wall and a light bulb finally goes off in his head. Seeing the thermometer gives him the perfect idea. He grabs some paper and starts writing at lightning speed while his sister watches in confusion. Lecia asks if he is about to build something new. He does not even look up while explaining that he is sending a request to his uncle for more materials. Arcus finishes his notes with a confident smirk. This kid is sure his sister is going to love what he has been working on. Cut to a large mansion where the peace is being shattered. Our boy is straight up pounding on his uncle's door, ignoring the maid who is begging him to stop. Inside, Uncle Crabe finally stirs and looks like death warmed over. He is definitely not a morning person, especially with this much noise. Sitting on the edge of the bed, a hungover Crabe warns there better be a full-scale war happening to justify this wake-up call. The maid keeps her distance while he tries to find his bearings. Back on the grind, Uncle Crabe notices the dark circles under the kid's eyes and wonders if he even slept. Arcus doesn't miss a beat and asks for the maid to leave so they can speak privately. After a wide shot of the bedroom, a custom wooden device with a glass tube is presented. Our MC ignores his uncle's yawn and insists that he takes a close look. Recognition hits as Crabe spots the tube he sent over, wondering if it is just a fancy scale. Arcus tells him to keep his eyes peeled as he prepares to show off its true purpose. Arcus starts pumping ether to show off how the sorcerer's silver reacts. Uncle Crabe watches closely while the kid explains his newest creation. The silver in the tube shoots up instantly. It reacts with a sudden surge of energy. Crabe is initially underwhelmed, assuming it is just some kind of strange moving toy. The realization suddenly clicks for the old man. He stops Arcus from leaving and asks if the device is doing what he thinks it is. With a smug look, Arcus confirms it. He built a tool that finally allows someone to measure ether accurately. Crabe starts losing his cool over the discovery, but the kid just tells him to cover up his bare chest. Arcus claims he only figured it out by accident. After getting dressed, Crabe warns him to keep this a secret. He knows this invention is unprecedented and could be the discovery of the century. This invention is about to change the game for everyone. This tech is a world first that could flip everything mankind knows about magic on its head. Uncle Crabe cuts straight to the chase and asks what the endgame is for this new discovery. Gatekeeping the knowledge isn't the move, but a calculated rollout is necessary. The goal is to show the world once the timing is perfect. Keeping this a secret would basically be a cheat code over the entire planet. Our MC isn't interested in that kind of power play though. Secrets eventually get out, so going public is the real pro move. This way he secures his own legacy while also helping his country level up. A sudden head pat breaks the tension since the kid already has everything figured out. Arcus gets his hair ruffled while his uncle acknowledges his sharp mind. With a wink, Crabe admits the kid has some impressive foresight. Our boy is already worried about his social life and asks if he can tell his friends. Uncle Crabe isn't having it and tells him to keep his mouth shut until the official announcement. The uncle is genuinely stunned that Arcus actually has friends. He isn't feeling the shade and confirms his social status. With his uncle finally on board, the grind for his great work begins. Arcus tells him to stop questioning his life and get to work. The duo spends weeks hammering out the details and manufacturing parts. From diagrams to crates full of components, they work through the late nights and early mornings. Out in the courtyard, Arcus prepares for the final stage of the project. He focuses his ether to guide the object according to his will. A sudden surge of magic lifts a stone into the air as he perfects his psychokinesis. The experiment is a success, and he finally breathes a sigh of relief. Success at last. The ethometer is officially finished and ready to change the world. Arcus shows off his finished invention and watches his uncle have a full-on meltdown. Crabe admits that the kid's name is officially going down in the history books. The uncle cannot help but laugh at the sheer genius of it all. Arcus just relaxes in his chair, looking like a young legend who finally knows his worth. He celebrates the massive progress in his magic research. Now that the tech is solid, he shifts his focus to finding a spell that can actually defend him in a real fight. A memory of that kidnapper reminds him that this world is not a game. He refuses to use his age as an excuse for falling short when his life is on the line. He locks in with a heavy expression. To survive, he needs a trump card that belongs uniquely to him and no one else. Our MC searches his past life memories for something that does not exist in this era. He points a finger gun and realizes that a firearm would be the ultimate hack for any battle. Staring down at his work, he acknowledges that guns are pretty lethal for this medieval world. Since no one here expects invisible attacks, he is ready to completely change the meta. Our boy locks in to manifest his new trump card. He drops a chant for a projectile that rips through the air faster than sound. Massive L, the shot moves like a snail while his uncle trolls the weak effort. The physics are clearly not physicsing today. Back to the lab to solve the mystery. It turns out black bullets were just basic slingstones in the ancient meta, and the world logic is taking that too literally. The focus shifts to a total rework of the chant. He flips through the chronicles to find a linguistic exploit that actually matches his modern knowledge. A memory of Sue fumbling her fire magic resurfaces. Using high-tier words like incinerate is useless if the underlying logic is mid. He grabs another volume to dig into the lore. A single phrase can have completely different effects depending on the source material he uses. A potential W appears in a book called The Magician's Elegy. This passage describes fire that fills the night, which might be the key to fixing his spell. Arcus realizes that a single phrase can have multiple meanings. One burns things to ash, another fights the dark, and a third calls for revenge. This magic system is just as complex as modern linguistics. Picking one phrase means balancing 3 different outcomes and location factors. He stares down the massive pile of variables. One wrong choice, and his new trump card is a total dud. Our boy is locked in on his gun project. He needs a phrase that works in any environment and delivers instant results using 6 volumes of ancient text. He dives into a book on the spiritual age where the lore matches his old-world myths. A huge smile breaks across his face as he finally finds the winning combination. Back at the training grounds, he initiates the chant for his black bullet. He calls on the pale horse to race through the sky in the blink of an eye. The spell finishes with a bang as a projectile rips through the air. It slams directly into the bullseye with terrifying speed and precision. Our boy gets a jump scare from some sudden clapping. His uncle is right there to give him props for the flashy magic display. Arcus greets his uncle, but immediately spots the serious company he is keeping. Crabe is all smiles as he promises to deliver some great news. The vibe is definitely off. Arcus is already regretting his life choices as his uncle gears up for an introduction. Meet the new hire. Crabe officially introduces a stone-faced man who looks like a woman as Arcus's brand new attendant. Crabe introduces the new hire with a confident grin. Arcus is completely floored by the sudden news. This guy is too gorgeous for his own good. Arcus is losing it over the literal sparkles coming off him. Noah isn't exactly hyped about the job. He isn't thrilled about being handed over to serve a child. He is blunt and whimsical. He admits the situation isn't wrong, but he's clearly got some major opinions. A massive sigh fills the air. Crabe just laughs it off while Arcus watches the awkward tension unfold. Professional mode finally kicks in. He formally introduces himself as Noah Ingvain. The contract is sealed. Noah officially enters Arcus's service as his new personal attendant. Arcus is visibly sweating as he tries to play it cool. It is a pleasure to meet you. Noah isn't interested in the formalities. He tells Arcus not to worry about being polite. Our boy reminds him that he has officially been disinherited. Noah doesn't care, explaining that being too formal with servants just makes you a target for mockery. He leans in with a serious vibe. The real question is what Arcus plans to do from here. A tense stare down follows. Arcus hesitates for a second before finally making up his mind. The partnership is official. Arcus welcomes him to the team, and Noah responds with a rare smirk. Crabe is all energy, announcing that Noah will be teaching Arcus the noble ways. Noah is already roasting his former boss, complaining that Crabe is a terrible example who never explains anything properly. Arcus worries about breaking up the duo. He asks Noah if it is really okay to leave his uncle behind since they are so in sync. Noah shuts down the doubt immediately. It is not a problem at all. He leans in with a sharp gaze. Apparently, change can be exciting. Noah keeps it real, admitting he only served Crabe to avoid being bored. Apparently his uncle promised him an even more chaotic term of service working under our boy. Arcus is left processing the fact that he is basically an entertainment upgrade for his new attendant. That was more than enough reason to take the job. A slight smirk shows he is actually ready for the chaos. Crabe starts cracking up at the situation. He tells our boy that he is just way too entertaining to pass up. The uncle vouches for his skill, noting he was top of his class at the Magic Institute. Noah takes offense at being called a weirdo, despite his elite background. Noah's background is actually insane. They call him the Winter Wunderkind because of his elite ice magic and cold intellect. His resume is stacked with everything from rapier fencing to high-level etiquette. This dude is basically a human cheat code. Noah stays humble, suggesting his talents should speak for themselves. Our boy is already sold on the hype. Arcus is ready for a live demo. Noah is down to show off. Noah prepares to showcase one of his most favored spells. Arcus is all in for the performance. The atmosphere chills as a magic circle activates. A dark chant about freezing hell sets the stage. The incantation reaches its climax. Noah calls for the frost to stop everything in its tracks. The ground cracks wide open from the pressure. Our boy can hardly contain his excitement. Noah remains perfectly calm. He introduces the freezing gale with a steady gaze. High-level magic is always a treat to see. This move is actually an adaptation of a standard ice spell. Instead of just cheering, Arcus starts scribbling notes at high speed. The attendant is just plain confused. He is tracking the exact ether consumption. This is not how normal kids react to a demonstration. Our MC holds up his invention and drops a brand new unit of measurement. He calls it mana, and the professional's brain just hit a wall. The morning training session is in full swing outside the mansion. Noah moves with surgical precision while Arcus is forced into a desperate defense. No, he grunts, struggling to keep up with the overwhelming speed of his new attendant. The wooden blades meet in a heavy clash that sends vibrations through Arcus's arms. Noah is a total wall and effortlessly breaks the stalemate. One swift strike later and our boy is hitting the dirt while his weapon clatters away. Noah stands tall and lowers his practice sword to signal the end of the round. Halt, bout 10 ends here. Still grounded and catching his breath, Arcus stares at the sky in total defeat. I lost again. Erg. Noah offers a blunt critique, warning Arcus that he is overthinking and attempting strategies his young body just isn't ready for yet. He suggests toning down the ambition for now. Strategies, Arcus repeats, clearly confused by the feedback. It finally clicks for our boy. He has been subconsciously trying to use high-level kendo moves from his past life memories that require an adult frame. He realizes he just needs to wait for a growth spurt before his current body can handle those techniques. As they head back, Noah reflects on how scary talented the kid is in every subject from swordsmanship to magic. However, one specific invention is still weighing on his mind. The ethometer, was it? Noah is stunned when he asks about the origins of the device, only for Arcus to casually reveal that he is the creator. It is hard to wrap his head around a child doing the heavy lifting, even with a little help from his uncle. The kid is already thinking like a lead researcher, requesting a full magic show just to benchmark the mana costs. He is using the data to level up his own spell designs while keeping his best secrets under lock and key. A heavy silence fills the air as the reality of the situation finally starts to sink in. The professional mask finally slips as Noah realizes he has just stumbled into the most interesting assignment of his career. Crabe is loving the shock factor in the background, while Noah admits he was definitely undersold on how special the kid really is. Noah leans in to whisper, asking to borrow an ethometer later. Arcus is totally chill about it since he has plenty of spares. The conversation continues with a professional level of mutual respect. Loyalty is the name of the game here, with a promise to keep everything strictly confidential. Having a reliable ally is a huge win for the team. It looks like the attendant is starting to see the young master in a whole new light. Arcus finally locates the items. Noah plays it cool, pretending he was not just talking to himself. He presents a set of 3 different devices. Seeing multiple versions of a world-first invention is a lot to process. Each one handles different levels of ether measurement. Noah accepts them, realizing the research is way more advanced than he thought. Noah takes a long look at Arcus and calls him a marvel. He lets out a series of creepy laughs while our boy just stands there sweating. Noah is already geeking out over the new data. Arcus struts away, trying to feel like a big deal despite his tiny stature. Arcus eats dirt after a major trip. Noah just watches the fail and thinks the kid is more fascinating than ever. After picking himself up, Arcus snaps back into professional mode. Noah reminds him it is time to get ready for their next big meeting. The duo arrives at the massive Magician's Guild. Crabe Abend is already waiting inside with a couple of mystery guests. The guild staff preps a soundproof room to ensure total privacy for the meeting. They know whenever Crabe is around, something shady is definitely on the menu. Meet the guildmaster, a rugged guy with a scar who does not have time for games. He cracks open a book and tells the group to start talking. The guildmaster suspects the guests are just hired help. He hasn't heard a single word about any groundbreaking research coming from their camp lately. The atmosphere shifts as the big boss makes his entrance. Meet Godwald Sylvester, a man who suspects that something massive is actually brewing behind the scenes. One look at the guildmaster and Arcus goes into a complete meltdown. The kid is practically vibrating with fear in front of this absolute unit of a man. Arcus drops into a deep bow and offers a frantic apology for his reaction. Godwald just keeps it cool, telling the boy that everything is fine. The kid is still stuck on repeat with the apologies. Godwald just stares back in a heavy silence that would make anyone sweat under the pressure. Crabe can barely contain his laughter at the whole awkward scene. He assures Arcus that the big guy isn't actually as scary as he looks. Godwald clears his throat and asks why Crabe brought his daughter along to a serious meeting. Crabe nearly chokes, quickly explaining that this is definitely his nephew. Crabe tries to save the day by pointing out the boy's clothes, but the big boss isn't buying it. Arcus attempts a professional introduction, only to take a critical hit when Sylvester deadpans that he still looks exactly like a girl. Just as the meeting is about to start, a sudden creak from the door kills the momentum. Someone from the hallway shouts an apology before barging into the room. A maid comes flying into the office and eats the floor with a loud crash. Sylvester just stares her down, looking like his patience is officially at zero. The girl is practically vibrating with fear as she begs for her life. Sylvester rubs his face in exhaustion, clearly wondering why his staff treats him like a literal monster. The boss barks at her to just spit it out, but the poor girl is too busy fidgeting to form a coherent sentence. His intense aura is only making the situation 10 times worse. She drops into a full prostration, screaming for mercy in front of the entire group. Arcus and the others can only watch from the sidelines as the awkwardness reaches critical levels. Our boy is genuinely terrified now, imagining Sylvester as a villain who buries people in concrete for fun. Meanwhile, the big guy just sighs at the ceiling, wondering how to handle the crying mess on his floor. A maid rolls in a cart full of tea and snacks, apologizing for the intrusion while delivering some papers. She beams as she presents the refreshments and mentions that she brought tea and sweets for their young visitor. Crabe is ready to dig in, but our boy isn't exactly a fan of the sugar rush. He awkwardly pipes up to let them know the situation, admitting that he is not very fond of sweets. The big boss finds it weird that a kid would turn down candy, while the others just call him a total eccentric. Arcus can only stand there and listen to them roast his personality right in front of him, with Crabe calling him a bit of a weird one. Things finally get serious as Crabe shifts in his chair and presents a mysterious case. He tells the guildmaster to focus and take a close look at their latest project. Godwald leans in, trying to figure out what this strange tube is even supposed to do. Crabe introduces the invention with total confidence, calling it the ethometer and claiming it can actually measure magical energy. Sylvester's brain practically stops working as he asks for a repeat. He is completely convinced that measuring magic is a physical impossibility, but the smug look on Crabe's face says otherwise. Crabe just laughs off the skepticism, insisting that the device is the real deal. He gestures toward the material inside the tube, explaining that the stuff at the bottom physically reacts to the presence of magic. Sylvester watches the swirling energy expand as it feeds on more ether. He asks if the stuff is actually moving. He's shook, asking if Crabe really made something this advanced. Crabe just points a finger, giving all the credit to our boy. Sylvester can't wrap his head around it, noting that Arcus doesn't even look 10 years old. Our MC just sits there, looking small and nervous under that intense gaze. Crabe is loving the shock, admitting he didn't even believe it himself at first. He makes it clear that their goal is to eventually release this tech to the public. The guildmaster holds the device as a massive aura of energy flares up around him. It is so sensitive that even a little leak makes the gauge spike. They talk logistics, admitting the range is limited to just the size of the room for now. Even with that, Sylvester knows this invention is about to make the country a fortune. Things get heavy as Sylvester leans in with his hands folded. He asks if they are sure about this, since they have every right to keep the tech for themselves. Crabe leaves the decision-making to the kid. Godwald shifts his focus to Arcus, asking exactly what he wants in exchange for his invention. Arcus Wraitheft, what do you hope to gain from announcing your creation? Arcus does not hesitate for a second. Money, and if I may, access to the etheric study texts of Laner as much as the state can allow. That answer is exactly what Godwald wanted to hear. A magician through and through. Godwald is impressed by the boy's priorities. He notes that chasing money and knowledge is the mark of a true magician. The guildmaster lets out a laugh. He finds it hilarious that such a young kid has the soul of a hardened researcher. Crabe doesn't miss the chance to flex his nephew's talent. He reveals that Arcus is already whipping up original spells out of nowhere. This news hits Godwald hard. Inventing practical spells is usually a graduation requirement for elite institute students, and most of them still fail. He can't even keep his hands steady while holding his tea. He compares Arcus to the prince, though he admits the kid looks more like a little girl. He takes a moment to just soak it in. This boy is officially the most astounding talent he has ever seen. The conversation turns toward politics. Godwald asks if the king has heard the news, but Crabe confirms they are keeping it on the down low for now. Crabe complains that the king would only care about boring business goals. In his eyes, the ruler is too obsessed with production to appreciate the magic. He jokes that the king is a total stiff who would complain about being the last to know. Godwald actually lets out a laugh, agreeing the ruler has a stick up his butt. Scrambling to maintain his composure, Arcus panics over the casual talk of treason. Crabe just flashes a grin and drops the bombshell that he and the king are actually best friends. A flashback reveals they were once the ultimate rebel duo, running wild across town. Watching his uncle's past, Arcus can only stare in disbelief. Crabe signals the end of the meeting with a grin, glad to have the deal locked in. Godwald accepts the terms, noting that his next move is to get the official announcement ready. Crabe wraps things up and promises to hit them up once the date is locked in. Before they can head out, Godwald stops them, holding up the prototype and reminding them not to leave their gear behind. Arcus beams as he offers the prototype to the guildmaster as a personal gift. Crabe chips in with a wink, calling it a thanks for seeing us present. Godwald isn't exactly touched, narrowing his eyes with a deadpan stare. Godwald calls out to Crabe, who offers a casual response. The mood shifts as the guildmaster reminds him this is all for the king. A simple confirmation settles the matter. They hit the salute for the crown before the scene cuts back to the city. Arcus is chilling by the fountain when a familiar voice pulls him back to reality. Sue comes charging in with zero chill. She is hyped for another study session, and our boy is actually happy to have some company. The vibe shifts the second she spots the bandage on his face. She is shook that his family would take his inheritance and leave him with a scar. She starts losing it, crying over his cheeks like it was her own face getting hit. Arcus just shrugs it off since he is used to the regular beatings at home. He admits that his low magic levels just did not cut it for the family legacy. Sue finds the whole situation weird, but Arcus is just happy someone is actually on his side. She gives him a look that is actually serious for once. In her eyes, he is just as much of a magician as anyone else. Arcus reflects on his magic levels, noting that compared to the general public, he is actually pretty average. Noah even told him that some government officials have less power than he does, which makes just being a magician a win. He explains that being average isn't enough for the Wraitheft family, which is why he was disinherited. Sue asks why he even bothers working so hard if he is technically doing fine, leaving our boy to pause and think. She points out that since he is already disinherited, he is finally free to quit magic forever. If it were her, she would have walked away from the whole mess and never looked back. Arcus pauses for a moment, realizing he finally has to say the truth out loud. He admits that his real goal is to reach the top as a magician, just to spite everyone who looked down on him. Sue just gives him a blank stare and asks if he is being a petty child. Arcus immediately panics, feeling the heat of his own embarrassing confession and immediately regretting his big mouth. He tries to laugh off the cringe with a deep blush, admitting he thought his reason would sound a lot cooler. As he looks down at the ground, he starts to question if his motivation is actually a bit pathetic. That spite has been his only fuel this whole time, but he wonders if it will even be satisfying when he finally succeeds. He starts to worry that seeking revenge might just mean lowering himself to their level. Arcus cuts her off, deciding that even a petty goal is better than being a do-nothing. It is way better than losing hope and doing nothing, he says with a look of pure focus. Sue breaks it down for him, explaining that choosing to fight back instead of hiding is the definition of growth. You could have just run away, she points out. The thought of running away never even crossed his mind, but she reminds him that an easy escape was always an option. Instead of hiding with his uncle, he is out here grinding to face his haters head-on. She gives him a look that is pure respect. That is super impressive. She beams, making our boy feel like a legend. He takes a second to process the compliment, the realization hitting him right in the feels. Looking down with a soft smile, he admits that maybe his spite-fueled grind is a valid way to move forward. Sue starts celebrating immediately, hyped that he is actually standing up for himself. Once she calms down, she suggests that revenge should not be the end of the road and he should aim way higher. Leaning in with that big energy, she asks him what happens after the smoke clears. You gotta dream big, she tells him, challenging him to look past his petty grudge. Arcus starts overthinking her advice, wondering if a backup goal is just a way to avoid a post-success crash. She brings up becoming a state magician, but then immediately decides that rank is way too low for him. Arcus points out that there are only 11 state magicians in the country. Sue just brushes it off and claims he could pass that exam right now, much to his horror. She doubles down on the hype, insisting that life is only fun if the goals are massive. Getting another bright idea, she asks why he does not just aim for being a general or a high-ranking noble instead. Sue decides that is the move and tells him to just do something mind-blowing to earn a peerage title. Our boy admits that might be out of his league, but she is not hearing any excuses. She beams with confidence, declaring that her own experience is all the proof she needs that he is built different. Arcus points out she is only a year older, but she is not hearing it. A year is a lifetime in her world, and she insists he keep reaching for those top-tier goals. Our boy finally caves and promises to give it his all. She is hyped, promising to be his #1 fan through the whole grind. The advice keeps coming, telling him that success belongs to the greedy. After being reminded she is actually a whole 9 years old, he asks what her own journey is going to look like. He wants to know if she has any real plans for the future. She does not even hesitate, claiming she is already on it. He tries to poke fun at her big ambitions with a smirk. The vibe shifts instantly as she admits her real goal is to turn this country into a powerhouse. She wants a nation so strong that nobody would even think about throwing hands. Arcus is left stunned by the sudden drop in temperature. She breaks down the geopolitical mess they are in, with the Empire and mountain tribes just waiting for them to make a mistake. One step out of line and they will strike, hoping to incite a rebellion and tear the country apart from the inside. Sue suddenly drops the heavy act and starts laughing, admitting she just read all that geopolitics in a book. Arcus is relieved but calls her out for making it sound like they were living in a dystopia. She admits it was a bit of a reach. She spots something weird sticking out of his pocket, and he pulls it out to show her. He challenges her to guess its purpose. Sue takes one look at the device and drops the most unhinged theory about where it should be inserted. Our boy is left questioning his own hearing after that wild suggestion. He realizes the vibe is cooked and tries to pivot by explaining it is an ethometer for measuring ether, but she just offers a soul-staring silence in return. The realization hits her and she demands to know where he even got it. She is visibly shaken while he keeps it casual. He drops the bombshell that he built the device himself. He gives her a live demo of the red liquid reacting to his magic. She is instantly hooked when she sees it measuring out 10 units of mana. Sue is looking for a major handout and she is not hiding it. Arcus knows she is desperate for the device, but he is standing his ground for now. The guilt trip starts as Sue calls out his teasing, but Arcus is not budging. He stands firm against the constant begging while they move through the garden. She is pulling rank to get what she wants, but it is not working. Arcus is stuck between her demands and his own logic. He explains that the device is going public soon, so he cannot just hand them out yet. There are rules to this invention game, and he is sticking to them. Sue finally realizes he is serious about his massive goals. She tries to take matters into her own hands, forcing him to defend his prototype. Our boy finally caves a little and offers a middle ground. He tells her she can use it whenever they are together, and the atmosphere changes instantly. She is over the moon and makes sure he feels the love. Arcus is definitely feeling the pressure of her gratitude as she celebrates the win. 2 years have passed since the last chapter. We find ourselves in a high-class ballroom where the elite are gathering. The gossip mill is already spinning as guests spot the Wraitheft heiress. Everyone is whispering about how she has grown into a gifted young lady. Lesia Wraitheft is the star of the show tonight. Her father Joshua tells her to pay close attention because they are visiting the richest noble in the kingdom. Keeping it professional, Lesia gives her father a respectful nod. Joshua looks ready to handle business as the big players make their entrance. An older noble greets them with a warm laugh and tells them to relax. He compares Lesia to a beautiful flower, leaving our girl a little flustered by the attention. This man is Count Purse Cremelia, a military powerhouse who controls all the eastern houses. Joshua admits they have been waiting specifically for this meeting to begin. A stunning new girl named Charlotte enters the scene and commands the room. Lesia looks like she just saw her idol and is beaming with pure joy. Lesia arrives at the party looking for her brother, but she is quickly overshadowed by the grand entrance of Charlotte. While the adults trade formal compliments, Lesia is frantically whispering and wondering where Arcus disappeared to. Charlotte confirms that Arcus is not in attendance, and the atmosphere immediately gets tense. Joshua steps forward, ready to address the rumors that have everyone on edge. Standing tall, Joshua gets straight to the point and asks to officially end the engagement of his son to the daughter of the Count. He is ready to sever the connection between the two families right now. Count Cremelia asks if this sudden move is related to the expulsion of Arcus from the family. The girls watch in silence as the high-stakes conversation unfolds. Refusing to back down, Joshua calls the lack of magic from his son a disgrace to the family name. The Count suggests the boy might still have potential, but the father refuses to believe it. The Count mentions that this whole situation sounds familiar before shifting the topic to the military history of Joshua. This praise seems to make Joshua even more nervous as he bows. Pushing for a clean break, Joshua insists on calling off the engagement to avoid putting the Count in a difficult spot. Lesia tries to intervene, but the deal is already finalized. Charlotte surprisingly agrees to end the engagement, admitting she has never even met the guy. Joshua watches as his plan goes through without a fight. The Count mentions that Arcus is now with his uncle Crabe, causing Joshua to clench his fist in frustration. He tries to play it off as his brother's mistake. Doubling down on his disdain, Joshua promises that his son will not receive any real benefits from the arrangement. The Count just listens with a skeptical look. The tense atmosphere is suddenly cut short by a booming voice from the top of the stairs. It looks like the main event is finally starting. Enter Lord Gaston, a marquis who clearly loves the spotlight and has the mustache to prove it. He makes a grand entrance that demands everyone's attention. The crowd goes wild for the man, showering him with compliments as he struts through the room. He takes it all in with a confident smirk. Gaston makes a beeline for the Count, showing off their high-level connection. Joshua can only stand in the background and sweat as the heavy hitters start talking. Gaston plays the gracious host while Joshua struggles to keep his cool. Our boy's dad is definitely feeling the pressure of being in the presence of a heavyweight. While Joshua keeps bowing and scraping, the girls are busy spilling the tea. Charlotte knows exactly what kind of shady business this Marcus is into. Lord Gaston is the king of the national bag, but everyone knows his money is dirty. Joshua is basically shaking in his boots just being near the guy. Charlotte admits she is only here for the networking, even if the vibes are rancid. Suddenly Gaston commands the room and tells everyone to drink up on his tab. The noise inside finally gets to be too much. Charlotte heads for the balcony to get some fresh air away from the fake smiles. Lucia wonders why people even like these noisy parties. Charlotte hits her with the harsh truth about where all that wine money actually comes from. The realization of corruption hits Lucia hard. Looking at the guests inside, Charlotte sees nothing but a bunch of animals enjoying a stolen feast. Charlotte wants the tea on Arcus. Lucia does not even hesitate, calling her brother a marvel with that proud sister energy. She admits she is outclassed even though she studies magic too. To her, Arcus is just built different, and his grind inspires her to level up. Lucia flips the script and asks what kind of guy Charlotte is actually into. Charlotte takes a second to think before deciding she needs someone who can actually hold his own. Charlotte is strictly about that power, saying she could never vibe with a scrawny dude. Lucia is internally screaming because her brother is the definition of feminine beauty. The vibe just got ice cold. Charlotte drops a heavy "I see," and you already know she is processing some serious information. She lets out a huge sigh of relief before jumping out of her skin at a sudden thought. Lucia admits she would actually be crushed if her brother left the estate, even if it was for his own happiness. The sentimental moment is short-lived when a sudden rustle in the bushes kills the mood. Charlotte is not playing around and immediately demands to know who is lurking in the dark. A messenger from the Ministry of Justice crashes the balcony vibes, offering a formal apology for the sudden interruption. He holds out a heavy-looking case with a simple request. "If you would hold on to this," he says while presenting the handle. The girls are left staring at the mysterious delivery before Lucia immediately picks up the pace to head back inside. Sprinting through the halls with the case in hand, she nearly bowls over Noah to find out exactly where her brother is hiding. The door doesn't stand a chance when she bursts through, her voice echoing as she calls out for her brother. Arcus is just finishing up some research when he spots his sister, immediately checking in to see if she actually had fun at the party. Elsewhere, the mood is much darker as Lord Gaston realizes some of his most important paperwork has gone missing. He is sweating bullets while screaming at his subordinate about the major security breach. He towers over his terrified subordinate, demanding to know how such a massive oversight could even happen. The man can only bow low and beg for forgiveness as Gaston looms over him. The subordinate reports that the stolen files only detailed basic records of corruption, which surprisingly makes Gaston relax. He slumps back into his chair with a heavy sigh, figuring his dirtiest secrets are still safe for now. Gaston's face immediately twitches when he hears that a secret ledger is also missing. This is a much bigger problem than the petty corruption files he just brushed off. The mood in the room shifts instantly as Gaston admits that the loss of the ledger is way more worrying. He stares into space trying to calculate the damage. The subordinate explains that the ledger was likely snatched during the recent party. He confirms they have already managed to detain a suspect who might be responsible. Gaston is hopeful they got the papers back, but his subordinate delivers the bad news. The suspect no longer had the documents by the time he was caught. A hooded snitch reports that Lucia was spotted hauling a black suitcase that totally clashed with her dress. Gaston leans back, frustrated by the stubborn Eastern military houses. He knows he can't let Raytheft report back to the Cremelius. The order is simple. Bring the girl in privately and persuade her to give the case back. A creepy grin stretches across Gaston's face. Meanwhile, the reality of the situation hits as the kids realize they are holding a secret ledger. Arcus and Lucia stare at the mountain of paperwork, wondering why on earth anyone would hand this to a child. This is serious evidence. Our boy turns to his sister asking if the messenger said anything else before he took off. Lucia drops the real kicker. The official gave her one strict rule. Their father must never find out about this. Arcus puts Lucia on the spot, asking her what she really wants to do now that she is the one holding all the heat. She stays quiet for a moment, letting the weight of the choice sink in. Our boy points out that she is under zero obligation to help that official, especially with such dangerous documents on the line. Lucia clenches her fist as her pride as a noble starts to take over. She has been raised to believe that status actually has to mean something. She stands her ground, insisting that it is her duty to protect the people and set an example by following the law. Watching her closely, Arcus asks if she is really ready to put her life on the line just to be a hero. No hesitation here. She looks him dead in the eye and makes it clear that as a noble, she simply can't turn a blind eye to this mess. A confident smirk seals the deal as they finalize their plan. Later, Lucia catches up with Charlotte, who is absolutely stunned to hear that Arcus is officially on the case. Charlotte notes how much Lucia trusts her brother, especially since everyone else treats his room like a restricted zone. Lucia just smiles, completely confident that whatever she gave Arcus is in the safest hands possible. She doubles down with a bright smile, making it clear her faith in him is absolute. Charlotte acknowledges the bond but cannot help thinking it is a waste for someone so pretty to be a guy. The vibe shifts instantly when she catches a suspicious sound behind them and she immediately tells Lucia they need to run. Too late. A massive unit in armor steps out of the shadows and cuts off their escape. Charlotte tenses up while Lucia realizes they just walked right into a trap. It is not just one guy either. A whole squad of thugs emerges from the shadows, completely surrounding the girls in the narrow alley. Charlotte stands her ground and demands to know who these clowns are. The leader just smirks, making it clear they are coming with him whether they like it or not. Charlotte's eyes flare with rage as the brute reaches out. He snatches Lucia before she can react, leaving the girl screaming for help. Charlotte is not about to play the victim. A single flash of her blade and the thug is left screaming as his hand hits the dirt. The next attacker loses his cool and charges in blindly. Charlotte stays locked in as the blade comes swinging for her head. She effortlessly counters the rush and pins the guy down. Demanding respect for her status earns nothing but a snicker from the guys in the back. Doubts start to creep in about whether this was a targeted setup. The thugs do not offer any answers, just a cold smirk that says they have got this handled. Another grunt tries his luck and gets shut down instantly. Her movements are a blur as she cuts through the charge. She locks in her grip as she starts explaining her unfair advantage. Every move they make is visible to her before they even think of it. With her foresight active, the outcome of this battle is already decided. Losing is not just unlikely, it is impossible. The massive mercenary leader just laughs and tells Charlotte to put her sword away. Charlotte stays locked in, figuring that if she drops the boss, she can finally get some answers. The brute catches her vibe and asks if she has a plan. She doesn't hesitate. Perhaps I do. Charlotte launches a full-speed assault, closing the distance before he can react. He tries to snatch her mid-dash, but she slips past his reach with a clean move. Her sword finds a home right in his stomach, but the guy doesn't even blink. He just stares her down with a terrifying smirk, while she realizes the hit did 0 damage. Reality hits her hard. Even with her foresight and a direct hit, the power gap is just too much. Impossible. I cannot win. Her foresight guaranteed the hit, but seeing her blade do 0 damage proved there was an insurmountable gap in their strength. Gritting her teeth in total frustration, she had to face facts. The big guy just smirked and called her a smart girl for finally realizing the situation. Seeing no way out, Charlotte clutched her sword and turned to Lucia with an apology. She really hoped she could have gotten her friend to safety, but the plan fell apart. They had to wait for a better opening to make a break for it. Lucia looked terrified as the weight of their capture started to sink in. Lucia tried to act brave like a true noble child, but on the inside, she was screaming for her brother to save her. Elsewhere, Arcus was caught off guard when a mysterious letter arrived just for him. A maid handed over the message mentioning the well-dressed messengers who delivered it. Arcus started reading, and his face immediately went from curious to dead serious. Arcus storms in like a man possessed, demanding to know exactly where his sister is. Noah and the staff are totally blindsided, and even after the maid says she is out for the day, he slams the table and curses out the rat bastards responsible. The energy in the room just took a very dark turn. The weight of the situation finally hits as he reaches his breaking point. Turning back with a high-stakes shout, he confirms the nightmare scenario that Lucia has been kidnapped. The threat is plain as day. Bring the ledger to the slums or everyone dies. Noah realizes there is a second hostage involved. While he asks about the ledger, our MC dives under the bed to retrieve the goods. He pulls out a heavy suitcase packed with the evidence of Gaston's crimes. Noah is visibly shaken by the scale of what Arcus has been hiding. Noah gives him a cold stare for keeping this a secret. Our boy can only apologize while the room fills with a heavy pressure. Noah guesses the original informant is already a goner since they are coming for Lucia now. Arcus admits the situation is spiraling fast. Thinking about his sister being used as a pawn sends Arcus into a pure rage. He slams his fist down and curses the people responsible. Noah points out that a noble daughter is too valuable to kill off. Arcus takes a seat and tries to regain his focus. Noah suggests bringing in the authorities, but Arcus isn't interested in a family reunion. He wants his Uncle Crabe on the case, but his parents are strictly banned from knowing. Our boy knows his dad would just make a mess of things. Since Crabe actually has the rank to back them up, keeping the drama away from the main house is the only play. Arcus is heading straight for the plaza, trap or not. Noah is skeptical of the whole setup, but the little genius already knows exactly what he's walking into. The strategy is wild. He's going to let himself get captured and play the damsel in distress, betting everything on the fact that no one expects a kid to be a magician. While Arcus acts as the bait, Noah is tasked with scouting the enemy estate. They need to locate Lucia fast before the clock runs out on their rescue. He hits his attendant with a smug grin, asking if he's up for the task. Noah just sighs, knowing he's officially stuck following the orders of a 6-year-old. Damn straight. Command has been established, leaving Noah with a splitting headache as they prepare for the rescue mission. Noah confirms the plan to find Lucia first before letting Uncle Crabe handle the combat. Our boy agrees, knowing they cannot just storm in without a precise location. Rescuing his sister is the absolute priority, but he knows that saving her alone won't fix the deeper corruption in the city. He looks back on the mysterious servant from the surveillance office. The evidence that man gathered was enough to sink a Marcus, yet the delivery felt strangely reckless. Handing such a dangerous ledger to a child like Licia was basically like throwing the evidence in the gutter. The logic behind the messenger's actions just isn't adding up. Noah notices the heavy atmosphere and checks in on him. Our MC can't shake the sinking feeling that something about this setup is fundamentally wrong. Snapping back to reality, Arcus gives his attendant one last task to investigate. Noah just smiles, commenting on how his young master certainly knows how to keep a servant busy. Arcus arrives at the meeting spot to find the entire plaza deserted. As the sound of approaching footsteps echoes against the cobblestones, he realizes the trap has finally been sprung. The thugs finally close in and their leader confirms our boy's identity. He doesn't even flinch, just drops a casual confirmation. Arcus takes a quick mental audit of their gear. They might look like a ragtag group, but their discipline screams professional mercenary. The bald captain tells him to fall in line, but Arcus isn't about to make this easy. He draws his blade and stands his ground. He demands Lycia's return, sparking a wave of mockery from the squad. They laugh as the little man prepares to charge. His combat debut is a disaster. The sword slips right out of his hand and sticks into the dirt as he fumbles the follow-through. He starts fake crying about his lack of magic, and the thugs are loving the show. They tell the kid to just give it up. The insults turn personal as they bring up his reputation as the useless Wraitheft heir. A small vein of rage pops on his forehead as he realizes the rumors have traveled fast. The thugs aren't holding back, roasting Arcus with every rumor in the book. They mock his lack of magic and athletics, even calling him a girl just to get a reaction. Time to lock in and keep up the act. Arcus begs for his sister while putting on a pathetic magic show that barely produces a tiny puff of smoke. The performance is working, but being treated like a puny little kid is a blow to his pride. The captain scoops him up like a toy, convinced the rumors about the useless Wraitheft heir were correct. They shove him into the back of a carriage as he plays the part of the helpless victim. He watches the town fade away, wondering if this abduction is exactly what the mastermind was planning. Safe inside the wagon, Arcus smirks at his own genius. He swapped the real corruption ledger for some random trash, and these meatheads are too illiterate to even tell the difference. He lets out a quiet sigh of relief while the thugs shrug off the random letters. They have the kid, and what they think is the evidence, so they figure they are finally in the clear. Phase 1 of the rescue mission is officially complete. As the carriage wheels rattle over the stones, Arcus prepares for the next stage of his high-stakes gamble. Arcus watches the mansion under the moonlight and vows to save his sister. The scene shifts inside to the opulent heart of the enemy base. The goons deliver our boy straight to the boss. He realized immediately that this meeting was not going to be a friendly one. Gaston confirmed if he was speaking to the Wraitheft heir. Arcus met his gaze and addressed the villain by name. Straight to the point, Arcus demands his sister's release. Gaston just holds out his hand and asks for the ledger first. The boss checked the documents and saw through the bluff immediately. He demanded to know where the real ledger was hidden. Arcus claimed an official snatched the documents back. Gaston just chuckled, since the kid would not have shown up without the goods if that were true. Cornered, our MC claimed the real evidence was still hidden at his house. Gaston checked to see if any other witnesses knew about the secret stash. Arcus begs for his sister's release in exchange for the ledger, but the boss hits him with a cold refusal. Gaston makes it clear he will not be played twice and demands proof that the evidence is real, thinking the kid is now useless. The villain tells his men to haul him away as Arcus breaks down in tears. The guard asks if he should lock the boy up with the girls, and Arcus shouts yes while flashing a secret smirk. Our boy is already vibing with a mental image of his grand escape, while in reality the boss begins to have second thoughts. But the vibes shift as Gaston decides to lock him in the Holy Tower instead, leaving Arcus speechless. The boss admits he has heard the rumors about Arcus being a failure, but he is playing it safe because of the kid's martial background. The villain isn't buying the breakdown, wondering if this whole scene is just a calculated performance. The pressure of his gaze is heavy enough to crush any normal kid. No more talk. Gaston orders the guards to haul him off to the tower and shuts down any further argument. Behind his back, the crew is already asking for the next phase of the plan. Cut to the Wraitheft Manor, where the atmosphere is likely pure chaos. Gaston plans to wait for the panic to peak before sending a spy inside to snag the ledger. The silence breaks as Arcus asks what the plan is for his sister and Charlotte. Gaston just repeats the question back with a chilling level of indifference. The boss drops the hammer, casually stating they will dispose of the girls once their use is up. The atmosphere turns freezing as the reality of the situation finally hits. The limit has been reached, and Arcus calls out the total insanity of the plan. He reminds Gaston that erasing a noble's daughter isn't something the world just ignores. Gaston isn't even sweating it, noting that noble kids vanish all the time in this world. Arcus demands to know if the man really thinks the public is that stupid. Gaston casually waves off the consequences, claiming that covering their tracks will be a breeze. Arcus can only stare in disbelief, wondering how the man can be so certain he will get away with his crimes. The villain leans back with a smug grin and drops some cold hard truth. In his world, money is the ultimate power that lets you sweep any misdeed under the rug. Arcus asks if he really thinks cash solves everything, and Gaston doesn't even hesitate to confirm it. He calls money the lubricant of society that can twist even the most sincere feelings into whatever he wants. Our boy is fuming at this point, his teeth grit in pure rage. He lets out a sharp glare and demands to know how the man dares to speak with such arrogance. The mercenary leader shuts down any attempt at resistance, telling the kid to quit squirming. Arcus is forced down, completely pinned by the brute's strength. The bald leader mocks Arcus for being pathetic, but Gaston isn't joining in on the insults. He asks if the man has ever met a truly terrifying child, before admitting that he has encountered one himself. Gaston's mind wanders to the Prince of Laner, a legendary child magician. Rumors say this kid is the most gifted mage the kingdom has ever seen, setting a high bar for what a real threat looks like. Gaston drops some heavy lore, warning that anyone who has actually met the royals knows they are in a league of their own. You do not just talk about them casually unless you want a death wish. To him, these leaders are basically inhuman. They exist as a completely separate species from regular people. The mercenary asks what triggered this deep thought, and Gaston admits it was all in the eyes of Arcus. Our boy was playing weak, but he did not show a single drop of fear. Arcus reminded him exactly of the prince. It did not feel like he was talking to a kid at all. Cut to a new scene where a young boy is getting dragged along by his arms. He groggily wakes up just as the group reaches their destination. They have arrived at the Holy Tower, a massive structure where escape is basically a myth. Deep inside, guards maintain a strict patrol through the curved stone hallways. A guard stops by a cell and asks a prisoner named Gwari why he is still sitting in there. It looks like the man is in no rush to leave his bunk. The guard reminds him that his sentence is officially over, but Gwari just leans back with a grin. He asks where exactly he is supposed to go, acting like he has nowhere else in the world to be. He doubles down on the sarcasm, joking that the room service in this prison is actually top tier. The guard can only sigh, wondering if this man will ever drop the ridiculous attitude. The guard addresses him by his full name, Kazi Gwari, as if trying to snap him out of it. Gwari just stares back with a sharp, knowing look and a quiet chuckle. Arcus locks eyes with his new roommate, and the vibe is immediately cursed. He starts yelling at the man for being a low-life kidnapper, but Gwari just picks his ear like it is nothing. Arcus begs for a different room, but the guard says he is stuck there until the man finally leaves. Bro is just sitting there in the shadows while the guard reminds him his sentence ended a long time ago. The guard tells Arcus to just calm down and walks away, leaving him completely desperate. Our boy tries to stop him, but the man is already out of there. Gwari flashes a creepy grin and drops a major truth bomb. Did you know you're the reason I am in here? Arcus gulps and instinctively backs away as the tension in the room hits a boiling point. The psycho just keeps grinning while asking why the kid is so scared. This room is about to get very uncomfortable. Gwari drops the act and claims he is not actually out for blood. Our boy can only stare in disbelief at the sudden change in tone. Arcus is stunned as the man admits he went too far and totally messed up. The sudden honesty leaves him even more confused than before. A casual apology follows as if they are just hanging out. Our boy stays silent, trying to process if this dude is actually serious. Curiosity takes over as Arcus wonders why someone with high-level magic would choose to rot in a cell. Gwari just laughs it off and appreciates the unexpected compliment. Having seen his skills against Sue firsthand, Arcus knows this guy has real talent. When asked why he is still here, the man gives the coldest answer imaginable: money. He explains that a silver spoon kid could never understand the struggle of basic survival. It takes real cash just to eat and have a place to sleep. A humble home in the distance sets the tone for a harsh reality check. In this world, your bank account determines everything from your lifestyle to your very survival. Gwari tells him to get comfortable because free food is the ultimate perk of prison life. Our boy has finally reached his limit after being mistaken for a girl one too many times. Arcus refuses to settle in and declares his grand escape plan, while the older inmate tells him to save his breath. Gwari explains that the magic seals are way too strong for a kid, and warns that the guards are always watching. Ignoring the lecture, our boy prepares to show off what a high-level mage can really do. One quick spell later, and the unbreakable bars are suddenly clattering on the floor. Gwari can only stare in disbelief at the skill of this tiny legend. When asked how he pulled that off, Arcus casually reminds him that being a magician has its perks. Our boy is ready to throw hands with anyone in his way. Gwari just keeps it real, warning him that the guards will catch him if he leaves. Gwari asks what the hurry is since a noble kid usually has people coming for them. Arcus cuts him off with a blunt truth, saying his sister is in danger. He explains that Lycia found proof of a noble's corruption. Now she is being held captive, and there is no telling what they will do to her. His grip tightens as the pressure starts to sink in. He knows time is running out, and he has to go rescue her. Gwari just sighs at the typical noble drama. To him, it is always about the money, and these people never change. He warns that these corrupt types never play fair. It looks like the kid's determination is finally starting to reach him. Arcus vows to save her no matter what before squeezing through the broken bars. He lands on the other side and confirms the coast is clear. Gwari finally steps up and offers a hand, but he makes it clear that help is not free. Our boy is a bit stunned by the sudden change of heart. Arcus is looking for a deep reason, but the guy just wants a fat paycheck. He basically tells him that making a quick buck is his only goal. The deal is sealed, though things are still feeling a bit sketchy. Gwari reminds him that he does not forget a debt before leading the way. They trade names like true partners in crime. We finally get a full name for our new ally, Kazi Gwari, while Arcus introduces himself properly. Kazi needs to grab something before they leave, but he almost chokes on the MC name. It looks like he has some history with the Wraitheft family. He snags a towel and starts walking down the hall, while ignoring the salty prisoners in the other cells. He tells the hecklers to shut up and asks if they even know anything useful. Kazi breaks down the heavy security, mentioning guard rooms full of magicians every 3 floors. Arcus realizes the other inmates know absolutely nothing about escaping. Gwari starts crunching the numbers. Going head-on means they will be facing 50 guards each, and the odds are not looking great. He turns to ask our boy for a spell count, but Arcus just slumps in defeat. He admits he does not have the ether to handle a crowd that size. Arcus mumbles about only having 10 mid-range spells left for the mission at the mansion. Gwari is stunned that a kid from a famous military house has such a pathetic limit. Our boy grumbles that his low capacity is exactly why his family disowned him. He vows to crush that noble fop while Gwari just facepalms at the typical high society drama. They keep moving through the corridor while trading petty insults. Gwari mocks the pretty boy for his weakness, and Arcus fires back that his face has villain written all over it. A guard finally spots them in the hallway. Gwari just smirks and pulls a special cloth from his shoulder, calling this their first customer of many. He whispers a dark incantation and lets the magic flow. The cloth lunges forward like a snake, wrapping around the guard to silence him in an instant. Gwari wastes no time, dropping the guard instantly with his suffocating cloth technique. The dude hits the floor looking like a total mummy while our boy watches his partner handle business with zero effort. Arcus is hyped over the weird magic, but Gwari just shrugs it off. Apparently the MC gave him the idea to start weaponizing random junk in the first place. He recognizes the move from an ancient farming book. It is a niche deep cut that even Gwari is surprised he knows. Flexing that god-tier memory, Arcus claims he can recite their entire first meeting word for word. Gwari is officially creeped out by how much of a nerd his cellmate actually is. Time for some Oscar-winning acting. Arcus screams for help about a collapsed guard while his partner flinches at the volume. The guard is confused to see a kid in the hall, but he realizes it is a trap far too late. Both our boys flash a devious smirk that says everything is going according to plan. Gwari gives a mock round of applause while our boy stays hyped for the next phase. A guard suddenly rounds the corner with his spear ready, demanding to know what they are doing. These guards really do not know when to quit. Gwari tries to make a break for it, but Arcus steps up and tells him to stand back and watch a master at work. Our MC strikes a cool pose and starts a dark incantation for his secret technique. He fires a black bullet aimed right at the guard, calling on the pale horse of death to gallop through the sky. The spell hits with terrifying precision and shatters the guard's armor like glass. Gwari can only watch in shock as the man lets out a blood-curdling scream and drops instantly. Our prisoner buddy is physically shivering after witnessing that dark power from a 6-year-old. Despite just taking the dude out, Arcus casually kneels down to apply a healing spell and promises him he will be okay. Total existential crisis mode for Gwari as he processes those weird spells. He has never heard of a pale horse or death's eye in any magic book, and wonders what kind of monster he is stuck with. Arcus casually drops the bombshell that he invented the entire spell himself, though he thinks the naming is a bit cringe. Gwari just smirks at the sheer audacity of this kid treating a legendary achievement like it is nothing. Gwari drops some veteran advice, warning that showing off custom spells is the fastest way to get your magic stolen. Even if the logic is impossible to break down, the older prisoner can tell he is looking at a massive anomaly. This kid is officially in a league of his own. They have cleared 10 floors, and Gwari is already feeling the burn. Somehow they manage to drop every guard in their path. Gwari checks the mana tank, and the news is not great. This kid has the firepower of a tank, but the gas tank of a lawnmower. That custom spell definitely left an impression, but they need to change the game plan before Arcus runs dry. They hit a new floor, and the vibe is immediately off. The usual screams and noise have been replaced by a heavy silence. The lack of noise is creepy, but Arcus sees a silver lining. Without the yelling, they will hear any guards coming from a mile away. Arcus just wants to avoid more fights and keep their cover, but a voice from the shadows has other plans. Our boy whirls around as a sudden voice catches him off guard. Mysterious voice giggles from the shadows, calmly telling him there is no reason to be frightened. Our boy is blindsided to find a girl chilling in a wheelchair in the middle of a high-security prison. She doesn't seem stressed at all, casually calling him a cute little bunny while he tries to process what he is looking at. She claims to be a prisoner just like them, but Gwari is not buying it. She hits him with a smirk and calls him a sneaky fox like she already knows his whole deal. According to her, she is under much tighter security than any of the other inmates. Arcus nearly jumps out of his skin as she lets out a giggle, promising she won't hurt them. It is a bit hard to trust someone who is strapped into a chair in a place like this. She flips the script and asks what they are even doing out here. Arcus does not hold back and tells her they are escaping, which actually manages to surprise her for once. Getting right in his personal space, she questions if he is actually a prisoner at all. The vibe gets incredibly tense as she stares him down, waiting for any kind of reaction. She laughs off his serious attitude, telling him that lowering his voice does not really match his cute face. Arcus is clearly losing his patience while she treats their life or death situation like a game. She laughs it off, claiming she just mistook him for a girl because of his looks and fancy clothes. Our boy is definitely not amused. Seeing the high-quality gear, she figures he is some noble kid just waiting for a rescue party to pick him up. Arcus shuts that down immediately since he does not have time to wait around for help. Kazi is just along for the ride, playing the part of the helpful sidekick. She points out that he is still a prisoner, but Kazi flexes that he already finished his sentence. He is basically just living there rent-free at this point. She calls him out for being the local freeloader, and Arcus cannot help but roast him for being famous. Kazi is absolutely losing his mind over the disrespect. The banter is cut short as a guard charges down the hallway with a spear. Arcus tells his partner to stay focused, but Kazi is already starting to panic. The guard starts his typical tough guy speech about the tower, but he freezes the second he spots the girl in the wheelchair. Something about her presence just completely breaks his brain. The guard loses it and points a trembling finger. "Why are you here?" he demands with a shaky voice. Arcus and Kazi freeze as the girl lets out a heavy smirk. Questions about duty or whim fill the air as she addresses him from her cell. He stands his ground while the atmosphere thickens with a dread he cannot name. A sharp grin cuts through the tension. "Which do you think it is?" she asks with a dark curiosity. Rattle and clank, the chains are the only sound in the suffocating silence. Pure panic sets in as the guard screams for her to stay back, finally calling out the name Rotterbell. His voice cracks under the sudden pressure of her presence. She mocks his attempts to command her. "You think you can stop me?" she asks while calling him a foolish man. In her world, everyone in this tower is just a puppet beyond words. He tries to shout her down, but his words are lost in a strange poetic chant about a distant mirage. A request for a refreshing kiss follows as he lets out one last scream. "Thank you, my dear," she whispers while finally closing the distance. A sickening crack echoes through the hall, and the fight instantly leaves the guard. The guard is looking completely shriveled and struggling to breathe. Our boy is stunned, realizing the man is actually suffering from extreme dehydration. Rotterbell notes that the spell wrung him out like a wet sponge. Arcus stays calm, kneeling down to confirm his diagnosis that the guy just needs water to survive. She watches them with those terrifying spiral eyes, commenting on how fragile humans are. She has never even heard the word dehydration, but she knows the boy is right. The creepy vibes intensify as she talks about how easy it is to break people. She even laughs about the idea of finishing him off and breaking him down for spare parts. Kazi is officially terrified and calls her creepy, but Arcus is not bothered. He just stays focused on the guard, insisting that he will be just fine. Arcus uses his magic to summon fresh water and lets the guard drink directly from his hands. He lets out a small sigh of relief as the man starts to gulp it down. The mood shifts instantly as Rotterbell leans in and whispers to him. Arcus is totally caught off guard as she reaches out her hands and calls him a little bunny. Rotterbell closes the distance and calls him a smart little bunny. With a predatory grin, she asks if he thinks he can satisfy her thirst. Backing away in a panic, Arcus demands to know who she actually is. She just smiles from her wheelchair, asking if he is already starting to hate her. She explains that while she is bound more than most prisoners, she still feels free enough. Since she has taken a liking to him, she offers to help them out. Pointing down the dark corridor, she decides to cause a stir by visiting the guards. Arcus tries to warn her about the trouble, but she cuts him off immediately. Only the king himself has the authority to punish her in this country. She rolls away into the shadows, expecting to be treated with the same respect as always. A final goodbye follows as she makes him promise to tell her the story of his escape later. Kazi is clearly creeped out, calling her a complete weirdo. There is no way Kazi is going after her since he isn't that insane. Arcus remains curious about her identity, while the older prisoner gets back to work. Arcus looks up in shock as a familiar face appears in the prison corridor. Noah is back on duty, prompting a surprised shout from our boy. Noah expresses relief at seeing him safe, while Arcus wonders how he even made it inside. The attendant explains he simply followed the guards until security conveniently fell apart. Kazi finds the lack of guards suspicious since they usually never just leave their posts. The group stands in the quiet hallway, feeling the weight of the weird silence. Noah eyes the messy stranger and asks for an identity check. Arcus vouches for him as their escape help, though Kazi casually mentions his sentence actually ended years ago. Noah is not sold on trusting a random ex-inmate, but Arcus figures extra muscle is a win. He does a quick introduction to break the tension, but neither side looks thrilled. Kazi and Noah exchange stiff greetings. Noah lets out a heavy sigh, clearly realizing he has just inherited a whole new set of headaches. Terrifying screams suddenly echo through the halls, sending a chill down everyone's spine. Kazi realizes the creepy girl from earlier is actually putting in work, leaving Noah out of the loop. Noah asks if the girl was another inmate, prompting Arcus to recall her wheelchair and offer of help. The name Rotterbell drops, and the attendant's reaction says everything we need to know. Identifying her as Alicia the Dry Spell, Noah confirms her status as a high-ranking state magician. It turns out she reached that elite level only a year ago. The attendant refuses to go into the dark details, only mentioning that she earned her place on the highest floor of the tower. Kazi wants to keep moving while they have the chance, but Arcus mentions how freely she was roaming the halls. That kind of freedom does not exactly scream prisoner. The chaos Alicia is causing starts backfiring as guards flood the area. Our group stays low, watching a squad march right past their position. Arcus points out a nearby window, but Kazi is not sold on the idea. He stares at the ledge, clearly not seeing the vision yet. Realizing Arcus might be thinking of an exit, Kazi reminds him how high up they are. He is not about to risk a fatal fall just to get out a little faster. Arcus drops a major bombshell. He casually tells them they are going to fly, and Noah and Kazi look like their brains just short-circuited. Kazi starts screaming that the kid is nuts. Arcus tells him to relax, but Noah jumps in to explain that flying is technically impossible. Our MC wonders if they just have the wrong magic words. The ex-inmate shuts that down, claiming even the oldest legends couldn't hack it. Noah explains the common belief that the divine spirits simply do not want humans in the air. Every attempt in history has ended in failure. Arcus turns the tables with a question. He wants to know what they think is actually pulling everything down to the ground. Noah pulls out a full diagram for a quick science lesson. He claims objects are just attracted to their source, like fire longing for the sky. This kid realizes that nobody in this world understands gravity yet. He flat out tells them they are wrong, and that objects do not actually want to return home. Arcus drops a science bomb explaining that a force called Gaia is what keeps everything pinned to the ground. He is basically inventing gravity in a world that has never even heard of the concept. Kazi and Noah are completely lost, but the kid is already moving on to the next step. He raises his hand to cast a brand new spell and prove his theory is real. The chant begins, calling for every creature to rebel against the pull of Hades and take to the skies. He is literally telling the planet to let go of him so he can float. It actually works, and our MC is just vibing in midair while the others stare in disbelief. He admits he can't move around yet, but staying airborne is a massive flex. Kazi is losing his mind seeing a kid actually fly, and even Noah has to admit the boy is staying up there. They are officially witnessing a miracle that everyone thought was impossible. Noah starts laughing with pure joy, completely obsessed with how his master keeps breaking the laws of reality. Kazi looks a little concerned about the guy's intensity, but he can't argue with the results. Our boy gives a big thumbs up and tells the two adults it is their turn to try. He makes it sound like a walk in the park, but they are definitely not ready to just jump into the sky. Alright, let's go. Arcus and Noah launch themselves out the tower window with zero hesitation. Kazi is left behind, screaming that he really should have gotten a practice run first. The wind rushes past as Kazi watches the scene unfold. He stands there sweating, officially needing someone to pinch him because he cannot believe what he is seeing. We opens with a high-stakes observation as Sue watches Arcus and his crew finally clear the tower grounds from a distance. She is chilling on a massive tree branch under the moonlight with a very serious-looking woman standing guard right behind her. This is Lisa Lauze, the chief officer of the surveillance office. She looks completely stressed out, admitting she never thought she would be asked to intentionally weaken the tower security, as she asks if Sue is really sure about this move. Sue notes that Lisa could not have just released Arcus directly without causing a massive scene. Lisa looks down while sweating, explaining that her hands were tied because too many powerful nobles have close friends locked up in that tower. A heavy silence falls between them as Sue wonders which shadow player was behind the plan to lock the boy in such a dangerous place. She casually pats the dust off her skirt and hops down from her perch with a thoughtful hum. The pressure ramps up when Sue asks if the surveillance office is actually planning to do anything about the corruption. Lisa flinches and starts to stammer, clearly struggling to find an answer that will satisfy the mysterious little girl. Sue's vibe shifts from curious to cold in an instant as she stares the officer down with intense eyes. She gives Lisa one final chance to be honest, making it clear that she has zero tolerance for anyone trying to play games with her. Lisa is literally shaking in her boots as she begs for Sue to believe her, but the girl shuts her down immediately, stating that keeping secrets is the same as lying and that she already knows the surveillance office expected this outcome. Lisa tries to play the no evidence card, but our girl is one step ahead. She points out that the only reason she even knows about Arcus is because the office was already keeping tabs on him. The mood shifts instantly as Sue stares her down. A blade is drawn and Lisa is officially shaking as her name is called out like a death sentence. Sue holds the knife steady with a terrifying look in her eyes. She tells Lisa to handle the situation, or her head is going to be the next thing on the chopping block. Message received. Lisa folds like a lawn chair, bowing and gasping for air, while she promises to follow every single order. And just like that, the scary vibes are gone. Sue is back to being all smiles and sunshine, while Lisa is just trying to keep her heart from stopping. They look out at the tower, wondering how the boy managed to escape so fast. Lisa knows the servant went in recently, making her suspect Arcus is using some secret new magic. Sue decides she will just ask him about it later. Meanwhile, our boy has already arrived at his next destination and is ready to get back to work. Our boy is locked in and ready for the main event. He hopes Gaston is prepared, because the raid on the estate is officially a go. Kazi can barely believe his ears and asks for a repeat. Noah keeps it professional, confirming that Arcus's sister is being held right inside the Marquis's estate. The name Gaston clearly hits different for Kazi. Arcus keeps the focus on the mission, thanking his new ally for the assist and promising that the paycheck will be waiting once this is all over. Kazi actually wants in on the action and offers to tag along for the infiltration. Arcus tries to warn him about the danger, but the mercenary just brushes it off by reminding the kid that he is a noble too. Arcus tries to explain his low status, but Kazi is already halfway up the wall. This dude is a man of action and basically ignores the lecture to find them a way inside. Even the personal attendant wants a bonus for this high-stakes mission. Arcus is left completely speechless by the sudden demand for hazard pay. They successfully breach the perimeter and start moving through the shadows. The place is packed with mercenaries, and the security is looking tighter than a drum. Noah asks for his thoughts while Kazi wonders if the kid is losing his mind. Arcus doesn't care, clenching his fist and declaring they are taking them head-on. Hiding in the bushes, Kazi tries to bring up the concept of stealth. Arcus shuts that down fast, explaining his spells cost too much mana to waste on hiding when he can just clear the field. Scanning the yard, they spot about 20 guards standing between them and the goal. Arcus decides they are taking the lot of them despite the crazy odds. Before anyone can argue, our boy sprints into the open to act as bait. He tells the other two to flank while he draws all the heat himself. Kazi is just impressed by the sheer size of the kid's stones. Noah watches the reckless charge with a deadpan stare, asking Kazi if they can actually trust him. The mercenary cracks a grin and keeps it professional. He is getting paid, so he is following the crazy plan to the letter. Noah accepts the terms as they prepare to move out. Kazi gives our young lead a new nickname, shouting out to Daddy Warbucks as the raid begins. Arcus is out here turning the villain's legacy into a farmyard meme. He is shouting moo at the top of his lungs while his team tries to process the level of disrespect they are witnessing. Noah puts a stop to the comedy show with a quick pat on the head. They need to move out before the guards stop being stunned and start being a problem. The vibe shifts instantly as Arcus begins a heavy chant. Noah holds a glowing core of mana, prepping a spell that is about to turn this entire mission into a deep freeze. A freezing gale tears through the area. The courtyard turns into a winter wasteland as the ice magic snaps everything into place. The mercenaries realize they are caught in a total lockdown. They cannot even lift their feet as the frost pins them to the ground right where they stand. The poetic chant continues as the ice crystallizes into something much sharper. These sapphire tears are turning the battlefield into a jagged graveyard of frozen hail. Noah steps forward with a sword that looks like it was forged in the heart of a glacier. This is the frozen sword of Jacqueline, and it is looking absolutely lethal. The merc tells them not to get cocky while his leg starts to twitch. Eventually stomping the ice with a loud crack, he lunges forward for a strike, calling them slush for brains. He goes for an overhead swing, but Noah is already 3 steps ahead. A quick dash and a flick of the wrist, and the attendant is looking lethal. Something snaps as the mercenary's attack gets shut down. Noah's eyes flicker with a cold light as the rest of the thugs watch their buddy get folded. Noah keeps the blade right at the merc's throat, basically ending the man's career in seconds. The rest of the squad is screaming in terror, realizing they're trapped in a frozen graveyard. Noah adjusts those glasses and drops a cold truth bomb. Nobody is getting past to touch the master, and the attendant really hopes they can grasp that simple fact. The hooded mages scramble to spark some fire magic to melt the ice before they get iced themselves. Arcus is just having the time of his life laughing at their bad luck. Kazi walks through the debris, officially deciding that everyone in this group is insane. He's just along for the ride at this point. The mercenaries start losing their minds, screaming for everyone to get taken down. They are in total shock that anyone could just stroll across the ice, like it is nothing. One of the hooded mages preps a dark fire spell, chanting about burning everything to the ground. He is looking for a complete wipeout, claiming their lives as payment for the debt. Kazi just drops a casual woo-oh while starting a counter chant of his own. He starts weaving a weird spell about lawyers and scholars to turn the logic of the fire into a shield. Kazi shuts down the fire blast with a single hand, mocking how predictable the attack was. Arcus is stunned by the move while the thugs scream in denial. Deciding it is time to end the games, Kazi calls upon the ruler of chains. He preps a heavy binding spell meant to drag his enemies down into a permanent nap. He officially stops playing around and unleashes the Cerberus curse. The area fills with heavy metal as the spell snaps into place. Chains wrap around the mercenaries, locking them down before they can even process what hit them. Kazi just tells them to be quiet while they struggle against the magical restraints. Kazi decides class is in session, calling for a punishment that shuts down any chance of a fair fight. The chains snap into position with a metallic roar, instantly snaring the target before he can even blink. A desperate scream fills the air as the magical restraints take full control of the yard. It is a total sweep, leaving the entire mercenary squad dangling like they are nothing more than modern art. The struggle is real, but the professionals are officially out of options against the weight of this binding magic. Kazi plays it cool and claims these guys were basically tutorial level, barely worth the effort of a scratch. Even a formal dip of respect from the Noah isn't enough to fix his mood, since he'd rather have more targets to play with. Arcus is absolutely living for the hype, practically glowing with admiration for the display of power. Kazi just brushes it off with a shrug, pretending like a kid's approval is the last thing on his mind. Our MC notes how heavy the dark energy feels, but the ex-con just fires back a reminder that they are both playing with forbidden powers. Arcus decides he has done enough spectating and is finally ready to get his own hands dirty. With a mischievous look, Arcus announces he has one more experiment to run before they call it a day. Noah is instantly on guard for his master, while Kazi wonders if the boy even has enough mana left to keep the lights on. He just laughs off the concern, gathering energy for a move that is surprisingly light on resources. Just because it is a budget-friendly spell doesn't mean the impact is going to be anything less than legendary. Our MC is officially stepping up, telling the squad to back off so he can cook. The guards finally spot them and immediately call for the archers to lock in. Arcus ignores the massive army closing in and starts a weird chant about wheat, leaving his team stressed out. This chant is basically just a list of insults about being lazy and talentless. It ends with a cold reminder that they are as useless as dust in the wind. Then he drops the beat with a spell called Exposure Dust. A massive white cloud erupts from his hands and swallows the entire enemy line. The mercenaries are left hacking and coughing in the cloud, assuming it is just a cheap smokescreen. They call for their mages to clear the air before they lose their target. Kazi keeps it real and says this dust is not going to kill anyone on its own. Noah likes the tactical move but knows they need a follow-up fast. Arcus isn't done playing yet. He tells his team to hit the floor and cover their ears before tossing an igniter into the cloud. A boom ripples through the air as the dust cloud turns into a fireball. Arcus watches the show with a grin while the others just try to keep their heads. The mercenaries are finished. Noah is left staring at the wreckage, wondering what kind of magic his young master just used. Our MC keeps it simple, explaining that setting the dust on fire was the plan all along. Noah is still suspicious because a noble kid should not know this much about explosives. Kazi is actually the one who recognizes the trick. He notes that while it is rare, this kind of blast has been known to happen at flour mills. He describes how fine particles in the air can turn a building into a bomb. It is a rare but deadly phenomenon that catches everyone off guard. Our MC breaks down the science, explaining how the spell saves energy by using natural processes. Noah and Kazi are not impressed by the logic, pointing out that no normal kid would know this stuff. Arcus scrambles for an excuse, claiming he just happened to read about it in a book. Arcus has to remind his teammates that he is literally standing right there while they gossip about his creepy genius. They are still recovering from his latest stunt, but our boy is already over the shade. Noah tells the kid to head out and leave the cleanup to the pros. Arcus does not hesitate, shouting that he will catch up later as he sprints toward the mansion. Kazi wonders if the kid always just rushes in without a plan. Noah asks if he is actually worried, but the mercenary just smirks and says he knows the boy will be fine. Time for the heavy hitters to earn their paycheck. Kazi stretches while Noah draws his blade, both of them already complaining about the mountain of overtime they are going to charge for this mess. Elsewhere, the scene shifts to a quiet hallway where the distant sounds of combat start to echo through the mansion. Someone inside is finally starting to notice that the party is being crashed. Locked away and bound, Lucia and Charlotte can only listen to the muffled chaos from outside. Lucia is struggling against her gags while Charlotte wonders if their rescue has finally arrived. Lord Gaston steps out in his robe, demanding an update on the intruders. His guards try to keep it cool, claiming it is just a few rats they will flush out in no time. Gaston is straight up losing it when he hears the kid he sent to prison is already back down in the cells. Lucia finally has a reason to hope because her brother showed up. The bald mercenary thinks this is going to be an easy paycheck since they are just fighting a child. Gaston is not so sure, feeling the pressure while Licia wonders if her brother can really pull this off. Gaston is spiraling because an escaped prisoner means the Ray theft family probably has the authorities on the way. He is more worried about the legal fallout than the fight itself. Hope takes a serious hit when the Merc reveals that Arcus only brought 2 guys with him. Lucia starts to spiral, thinking their rescue squad is way too small to win. Gaston connects the dots and realizes that if the MC father was involved, there would be an entire army outside. Since there are only 3 of them, he figures Arcus is just a rogue kid on a suicide mission. This villain is smirking now. He thinks our boy is rushing in out of pure panic because he is scared his sister will be taken out first. The peace and quiet are officially over. A messenger sprints into the room to announce that a child has broken in and is wrecking the place. Gaston is absolutely losing his cool, screaming that a mere child should not require their best effort. He orders his men to capture the boy immediately, refusing to accept any excuses. The official can barely find his words as the mercenary leader demands a status update on his squad. Elsewhere, the mansion grounds have been turned into a graveyard of smoke and rubble. The official delivers the crushing news that the entire mercenary squad has been deleted, leaving the girls watching in shock as the mercenary leader snaps and grabs him by the collar. The terrified messenger confirms the grim reality. Every single one of them is gone. Gaston slams his fist in pure fury while the mercenary leader reels from the news. He refuses to believe that a small kid and 2 others could dismantle his entire professional unit. The mercenary leader recovers his composure, suggesting they can still handle the boy if he is alone. Gaston is not so sure, dwelling on the strength of the Ray theft bloodline and how far they should be past their prime. Gaston snaps at his subordinate, warning him not to get cocky. He knows exactly how dangerous this child really is. Gaston is spiraling, screaming that our boy is a wolf in sheep's clothing right before the door gets deleted by a blast. He can only watch as a single foot steps through the rubble, signaling that the real fight is finally here. Arcus bursts into the room with his blade drawn, immediately calling out to his sister to make sure she is safe. Lucia and Charlotte can only stare in disbelief as their tiny hero officially enters the chat. The mercenary leader just smirks at the sight of the wolf, casually resting a giant sword on his shoulder. He decides it is time to go hunting, completely underestimating the kid standing in front of him. Arcus finally bursts into the room and spots Lucia tied up on the floor. She is crying with joy at the sight of her brother while Gaston stands in the back, losing his mind over how the kid escaped his tower. Arcus lets out a heavy sigh of relief knowing she is safe. Stepping forward with a hand on his sword, Arcus addresses the corrupt noble with cold professionalism. Gaston can only glare as our boy prepares to settle the score. Arcus looks Gaston dead in the eyes and makes his goal clear, saying he is taking his sister back right now. The disrespect is too much for the noble to handle as he screams in a fit of rage. A massive wall of muscle blocks the way as the mercenary leader draws his oversized blade. He mocks Arcus for being all alone and claims no adults are coming to save him this time. Arcus just stares back, asking who said he needed help in the first place. The mercenary leader roars and swings a heavy overhead strike to end the fight before it even begins. Sparks fly as Arcus parries the giant blade and slides through the mercenary's legs. He resets his stance with perfect form, leaving the big guy impressed by his sudden speed. The leader realizes Arcus was just playing weak earlier. Arcus jokes that he had to keep up the act, or his uncle would have killed him for being sloppy. Arcus struggles to hold his ground as the mercenary leader finally gets serious. The giant laughs and puts some real weight behind his next swing, deciding it is time to stop playing around. A heavy clash of steel sends sparks flying before a brutal kick lands right in our boy's chest. He tumbles across the floor in a daze while Lucia watches in horror. The mercenary looks down with a sneer, mocking Arcus for losing his smug attitude so quickly. Our boy hits the dirt hard, coughing as he tries to keep his eyes focused. Recovery isn't an option because the giant is already charging back in for the kill. The mercenary roars for him to take this while swinging his massive blade with everything he has. Our MC manages to catch the heavy overhead swing on his own blade, but the pressure is insane. The leader tells him he should just go cry in a corner like a normal kid. He thinks Arcus is just a little boy playing hero in a world of men. The weight of the giant's press starts to crush our boy's defense and forces him to his knees. Screaming about a lack of talent, the leader mocks the kid for even trying to fight. Arcus can only grunt in pain while his strength begins to fail. Another crushing blow sends Arcus sliding into a heap on the floor. He gasps for air and clenches the ground with a trembling hand, refusing to let his body give up just yet. Despite the beatdown, Arcus drags himself back up to his feet and levels his blade. He's breathing like he's run a marathon, but his glare is still sharp as a razor. Lucia watches from the side, unable to comprehend where he's finding the strength to keep going. Lucia is in total shock. Looking at the wreckage, she screams for everyone to stop. She just wants the nightmare to end. Turning to Charlotte, her voice cracks as she begs her to give up. She knows Arcus is outmatched and cannot bear to watch him get crushed. Arcus is gasping for air, but his resolve is rock solid. He thanks Lucia for caring but makes it clear he is not quitting. This dude is done letting other people's labels define him. He refuses to give up because he knows this is a fight he has to finish. The mercenary leader just bursts out laughing at the kid's speech. He thinks Arcus is just another stuck-up brat who doesn't know his place. Looming over our boy like a mountain, the giant tells him to just die already. He mocks the fact that even his sister knows the end is near. Something shifts in the air. Looking deep into the eye, we see a reflection of Arcus preparing something that makes the giant question everything. Arcus looks down, finally admitting that a head-on clash is a losing game. He admits he knew that from the jump, while the mercenary leader thinks he has finally broken the kid. Suddenly, a smirk crosses our boy's face as he levels a finger gun at the giant. He thanks the guy for the free ride across the room, putting him exactly where he needs to be. The leader doesn't buy it, laughing about how the kid barely has enough mana to fill a thimble. He raises his massive blade for a final strike, certain this little trick is just a bluff. Arcus doesn't flinch, manifesting a tiny concentrated magic circle at the tip of his finger. He tells the guy to shut up and eat lead, pulling the trigger on a move nobody saw coming. A loud bang echoes through the hall as the mercenary takes a direct hit to the head. The giant's body goes limp and drops to the floor, leaving him twitching in a pool of his own failure while the girls watch in shock. Cold as ice, our MC blows the imaginary smoke off his fingertip. He notes that the spell really came in handy and reminds himself to thank Sue for the assist later. Charlotte is losing her mind, unable to process how her predictions could be so wrong. Lucia can only stare at the wreckage, wondering what kind of monster her brother has become. Gaston is clearly rattled, sweating as he realizes his opponent has some real power. Arcus doesn't even break a sweat, reminding the old man that flashy spells are just for show. Arcus officially calls game, telling Gaston he fell for the act hook, line, and sinker. The Marquis responds with a suspicious smirk, forcing his young rival to pause and rethink his next move. Noah and Kazi come crashing through the door, ready for a fight that's already over. Noah's face is pale with concern, while Kazi just leans back and admires the handiwork. Seeing the cavalry arrive, Gaston drops to his knees and tries to pivot to a business meeting. He abandons his aggressive stance and starts begging for a compromise. The Marquis starts listing off terms like he's the one in charge, offering to return the girls if Arcus hands over the ledger. He treats the elimination of his guards like a minor misunderstanding. Bribery is his next move, offering financial help to a kid he thinks has a price. Arcus just lets out a heavy sigh, looking down at this desperate dude with visible disgust. Our boy shuts that talk down immediately, looking the old man dead in the eye. He stands his ground and makes it clear that some things are more important than a fat stack of cash. Gaston is officially triggered, screaming that nobility isn't about being a saint. He claims money is money, no matter how dirty the source. Our boy doesn't even blink, admitting Gaston might be right before calling his cash tainted. He makes it clear he wants zero part of it while his ally watches the exchange. Surprisingly, Kazi actually sides with the villain for a second. He points out that dirty money buys the same stuff as clean money, and asks the kid what he thinks. Confusion hits the room as Arcus tries to track the sudden logic swap. He gets the point, but something about the situation still feels wrong. The mood shifts instantly as Kazi drops some real wisdom about how dirty money eventually rots your heart. A quick vision of an old mill suggests there's a deep story behind his words. We jump back in time to Kazi's childhood where a woman explains the true value of hard work. She warns the kids that anything not earned honestly is nothing but poison. Little Kazi wasn't buying the lesson back then, insisting that having more cash is always the better move. He gets a sharp reality check when his father shuts him down with a swift bonk to the head. Kazi's dad is not playing around, reminding him that their way of life is about more than just chasing paper. He asks the kid if the family motto has already slipped his mind. The lesson is clear. Serving others selflessly is the only way to live a meaningful life. It is the kind of lecture that is hard to swallow when you can barely afford to eat. Back in the present, Kazi remembers his younger self shouting about how hard they worked for nothing. He was sick of being poor and just wanted enough cash to actually live for once. His mother gently reminded him that greed is a rot that makes other people suffer for your gain. She wanted him to claim only what he needed, while he just looked at her with a warm smile. The flashback takes a dark turn as we find young Kazi standing alone in the rain by fresh gravestones. His parents were drowning in debt, and the weight of those bills finally took them out. A noble scouted Kazi's magic talent and convinced his folks to take out a massive loan for school. They thought they could pay it back, but their lender was a snake who set them up to fail. Predatory interest rates buried the family until they had no choice but to beg the Lord for mercy. The scene turns tragic as his parents cry out for a fair chance while the guard prepares to silence them. The trauma is too much. Surrounded by the hanging bodies of his kin, a young Kazi screams at the sky, wishing he had the wealth to stop the tragedy. That loss changed him forever. Back in the present, Gaston thinks he can buy anyone. He offers our boy a life of luxury if he just takes out Arcus and Noah, acting like he is doing the guy a massive favor. Kazi isn't interested in the deal. Instead, he asks the Marquess if he remembers a farming family he executed 10 years ago. Gaston just looks annoyed that he even has to think about peasants. Gaston couldn't care less about some random farmers, so Kazi mentions the young daughter they took instead. That finally sparks a memory in the noble's twisted head. A sick grin spreads across the Marquis's face. He finally remembers exactly who they are talking about. The noble actually starts laughing. He calls the girl beautiful and innocent before casually admitting he used her for fun and then sent her to the gallows once he got bored. That was the last mistake he will ever make. Kazi delivers a heavy punch that sends the noble flying across the room. He stands over the trash and asks if he really thought he would take a deal from the man who ruined his life. Kazi lunged for the noble as the man continued to run his mouth. Arcus jumped in to block him, trying to keep things from getting even more out of hand. Arcus refused to let a murder happen right in front of him. Gaston stood frozen as he watched the two argue over whether or not he deserved to breathe. Arcus settled on a compromise and told his ally that a simple beating was perfectly fine. The shift in his tone sent a fresh wave of terror through the Marquis. Noah gave his approval and promised to look the other way while they settled the score. Arcus did not even try to hide his excitement about the plan. Gaston tried to play the status card and yelled about his high rank as if it would save him. Kazi ignored the noise and offered a quiet thanks for the chance to settle the debt. The room filled with the sounds of a one-sided fight, while Noah suggested they find something else to look at. Arcus just stayed right where he was, taking in every second of the noble's downfall. Kazi mentioned returning the favor as they prepared to leave the mess behind. He did not repeat himself when Arcus asked, keeping his thoughts to himself with a smirk. Lucia wastes no time tackling her brother in a crushing hug. Arcus holds her tight, finally able to relax now that she is safe. The guilt starts pouring out as she blames herself for everything. Arcus just smiles and tells her she did exactly what she was supposed to do. He looks her in the eye and tells her it was never her fault. He wants her to keep following her heart no matter what. She is worried about causing more trouble, but Arcus just gives her a reassuring head pat. He promises to always be her hero because that is the big brother code. Lucia gives a teary smile, but the moment breaks when she notices someone watching. Charlotte Cremelia is standing right there, looking as elegant as ever. Our boy's jaw practically drops when he hears her name. He realized he did not just save a random noble, but the daughter of Count Cremelia herself. He quickly shifts into professional mode with a formal bow. He introduces himself and apologizes for dragging such a high-ranking lady into their chaos. Charlotte isn't hearing any of his humble talk. She credits their survival entirely to his bravery and offers him her deepest thanks. Looking down, she confesses to once believing the rumors about his lack of talent. Seeing his grit against a powerful mercenary shattered her perspective. Arcus tries to brush it off as nothing. Charlotte refuses to let it slide, promising never to forget the moment he refused to give up. Dropping to his level, she takes his hands in hers. She offers a sincere apology for misjudging his character from the very beginning. The sudden physical contact has our boy completely locked up. She ignores the awkwardness and asks if they can finally drop the formal titles to just call him Arcus. He stammers out a quick yes, which earns him a warm thank you. The room falls silent as she announces her intention to renew their engagement, leaving the rest of the crew reeling. Charlotte just dropped the bomb about renewing the engagement. Our boy is short-circuiting, barely able to form a single word as he stares at her blushing face. A glowing smile spreads across her face while Arcus struggles to process the sudden rom-com energy. Rescue guards finally burst onto the scene, giving them both a much-needed distraction from the awkward tension. Outside in the ruins, Joshua and his wife rush to embrace Lucia in a dramatic display of parental concern. The relief doesn't last long as Joshua's face quickly twists into a mask of pure fury. Joshua starts screaming about the mess, but Arcus isn't taking any of the blame. He casually tells his father to take his complaints up with the Marquis once the dude actually wakes up. The sight of Lord Gaston nearly gives Joshua a heart attack. The high-ranking noble is a swollen, unconscious mess after the beatdown he just received. Losing his mind, Joshua grabs Arcus by the collar and demands to know what happened to the noble. Our boy just sighs, telling his dad that he is clearly directing his anger at the wrong person. Fed up with the constant disrespect, Arcus finally snaps back. He yells at his father for refusing to listen to a single word of logic. Joshua loses his mind and raises a fist, screaming that he won't tolerate any more excuses. Arcus braces for the impact, but a stern voice suddenly commands his father to stand down. Joshua chokes on his own rage and freezes when he realizes who just caught him in the act. Standing there with a piercing gaze is none other than Lord Cremelia. The legendary noble ignores the fuming father and addresses our boy directly by name. Arcus can barely hide his surprise as he acknowledges the presence of the high-ranking official. Lord Cremelia admits he doesn't have the full story yet, but he knows Arcus is the one who rescued his daughter. Our boy tries to brush it off as nothing while coming face-to-face with the leader of the Eastern Houses. Keeping his head down, Arcus offers a sincere apology for his own perceived carelessness. He feels his mistakes are the reason the noble's daughter was ever put in danger. Charlotte jumps to his defense and tells her father that none of this was the boy's fault. She makes it clear that they were victims of a kidnapping and only survived because Arcus came to their aid. Lucia joins the defense, begging her father to direct his anger at her instead of her brother. She claims she was the real target of the scheme and wants to take the full blame. Joshua is finally cooling off after realizing the heat is off his son. The tension is thick, but the immediate threat of a parental beatdown is gone. Lord Cremelia basically tells Joshua to sit down and be humble because the fault lies with the Marcus. The fuming father has no choice but to fold and show some respect to the higher authority. The vibe shifts from tense to wholesome in a heartbeat. Charlotte is glowing with gratitude, and our boy is clearly not built for this much positive attention. Talk about an awkward history lesson. It turns out these two have been tied together since birth, and the realization is hitting our MC like a freight train. Arcus assumed his disowned status meant the marriage deal was dead on arrival. He is finally piecing together why his dad was so stressed about the noble connection. Charlotte is doubling down on her feelings and refuses to let the engagement die. She is officially throwing her hat in the ring for the long haul. The peanut gallery is having a field day with the romantic developments. Our boy is catching strays from his own squad while trying to maintain his sanity. Arcus looks like he just saw a ghost as a familiar face crashes the party. Crabe drops in with the most casual greeting possible, leaving everyone stunned. Our boy is nursing a headache on the ground while his uncle looms over him. Crabe isn't impressed and wants to know why he couldn't wait 5 minutes for backup. A little physical discipline for the kid who decided to play hero and got himself locked in a tower. Arcus is still fuming, but he needs to know if the message about the kidnapping actually got through. Elsewhere in the mansion, the cleanup crew is finally moving in. Crabe makes it clear to his brother that they are tearing this place apart until they find enough dirt to bury the Marcus. Joshua is already spiraling about his family reputation, but Crabe isn't having any of it. He shuts down the whining by reminding him that a real parent cleans up their kids' messes. Time for a rude awakening. Crabe gives the fallen noble a none too gentle boot to the face to make sure he's still conscious for the fallout. The heavy hitters are officially taking over. Lord Cremelia isn't wasting any time and orders the whole group straight to the palace for a very long chat. Lord Cremelia isn't playing around and basically tells Gaston he has the entire Eastern military backing him. He drops the cold advice for the Marquess to start preparing for the inevitable fallout. The mood in the room is heavy as Gaston finally hits the floor in a pathetic heap. Even Lucia is sweating because the high-level noble pressure is just hitting different right now. Joshua is actually showing some backbone by standing up for his daughter, which catches our boy totally off guard. It is a rare moment of parental respect in a family that is usually a dumpster fire. Arcus decides it is time for a little one-on-one interrogation and asks the Marcus a few questions. Gaston tries to act tough despite being tied up, but our MC does not care if he wants to answer or not. The interrogation heats up as Arcus starts digging for info on the guy who stole the secret documents. Gaston is convinced his men already handled it, not realizing he is missing the big picture. Our boy drops the heavy hitter and asks Gaston if he has ever actually seen this mysterious thief with his own eyes. The Marcus is just confused and wonders why a kid is asking about his security details. Gaston finally admits he was just blindly trusting some servant report like a total amateur. Our boy just gives him a look that says he already knew the Marcus was a clown. Noah arrives on the scene just as Arcus finishes his chat with the Marcus. Our boy got the info he needed and is officially ready to move on. Kazi is just impressed they finished the interrogation so fast. Noah leans in to drop some top-secret intel directly into Arcus's ear. Our MC takes one look at the mercenary and realizes his suspicions were right on the money. Our boy hits them with a devious smirk and asks Kazi if he wants to tag along for the next round. He has a specific destination in mind, but Kazi is just confused about where they could possibly go now. The mission is clear, because they are going straight for the mastermind. Back in the city, a new heavy hitter named Chief Officer Lauze makes her entrance. She is tracking a target who has been doing a decent job of staying hidden. A man named Rosworth steps out of the shadows looking like he has not slept in a week. He puts on a massive fake smile the second he realizes he is talking to the chief officer. Lauze remembers him from the Marques's case and calls him out on the spot. Rosworth does not even try to hide it and admits he was the one who infiltrated the estate. The vibe gets heavy as the chief officer stares him down with zero chill. Rosworth just keeps his smug grin and asks her to start explaining what she is actually doing here. Rosworth can't hide his amusement as he recounts the Marcus's abduction of a noble girl and her brother's incredible rescue. He asks Lauze if she finds the whole story as stirring as he does. The chief officer isn't here for the jokes and demands a full explanation of his involvement. Her career is on the line, and she isn't about to let him weasel his way out. Lauze loses her cool and screams for an answer, while Rosworth just chuckles from the darkness of the tunnel. She is clearly shaken by his unsettling demeanor. He explains how he slipped into the estate as a servant, only to find nothing but weak evidence. To fix that, he decided to bait his target into the open. With a wide and unsettling grin, he points out that not even a high-ranking noble can be excused from kidnapping noble children. Laoze watches him closely as he laughs, claiming he wanted the surveillance office to take its time with the Marquess once he was detained. To him, the whole plan seemed perfectly simple. When the conversation turns to the Wraith theft boy, Rosworth admits he never expected the kid to launch an attack before he could even make his own move. Rosworth starts flexing, asking if he did a solid job while bragging about leaving zero evidence. He admits he completely miscalculated Arcus, realizing the kid might actually end up taking all the credit for the chaos. The chief officer isn't here for the small talk and shuts him down instantly. She has one question: why did he specifically choose the Wraith theft girl for this mess? He throws his arms wide and lets out a laugh that's definitely not normal. The goal was simple: drive a massive wedge between Lord Gaston and the Wraith theft family to make sure their alliance dies. He lays out the cold logic, explaining how a kidnapped or dead daughter would have been the perfect trigger for a war. In his head, he's a hero for preventing the Eastern houses from teaming up and threatening the king's power. The look in his eyes says it all as he drops the final punchline. If his plan worked, the two houses would have spent the rest of their lives devouring each other. Laoze loses it, screaming at him for being willing to sacrifice a 10-year-old girl just to divide the kingdom. He just smirks and claims he did it all for the greater good of the realm. She calls Cap on his noble cause, yelling that he only did it to boost his own career. He doesn't even deny it, asking why she'd expect a man like him to have any morals in the first place. Rosworth dropped his villain monologue, telling her to forget her naive ideals. He made it clear that using children as tools was just part of the business. "I guess I'll stop being naive too," our boy called out from the rooftop. Rosworth looked up to see the squad chilling under the massive moon. A sudden impact cut the conversation short. Arcus posed like a legend with his magic glowing, making the chief officer gasp in disbelief. She finally put a name to the face that just saved the day. Noah stepped in to handle the formalities, introducing the boy to Chief Officer Lisa Laoze. Arcus was genuinely shocked that a high-ranking official had actually heard of him. The vibe shifted when Kazi spoke up, calling the chief by her first name with a confident smirk. Laoze froze, unable to believe she was seeing him again. When asked how they knew each other, Kazi revealed they were actually former classmates from the institute. Apparently, they hadn't seen each other since the day they finished their training. Rooftop vibes are high, as Arcus admits. The whole situation felt off from the jump. He gives his butler some well-deserved props for seeing through the noise. Connecting the dots is easy when the facts do not add up. It is too convenient that the servant knew exactly who his sister was right before the kidnapping happened. Dead men tell no tales, and the trail ends right here on the cobblestones. Lisa realizes the entire incident was a targeted strike rather than a random crime. Trading a life for a deal is a cold move, but Arcus makes it work. He demands total protection for his family and a heavy price for Lord Gaston. Playing ball is out of the question for Lisa after her officer was dropped in the street. Arcus remains unmoved, declaring that his days of being naive are officially over. The threat is simple: join him or watch her entire office go down for treason. Refusal is not an option when he has the receipts on who is giving the orders. A desperate bluff is all she has left while cornered in the empty courtyard. The walls are closing in as he calls his team forward to finish the conversation. Kazi drops the act, telling Lisa their school reunion is officially over. Noah keeps it professional while taking her into custody, leaving the chief officer frozen in total disbelief. Staring down 3 mages and a spell she cannot even identify, Lisa realizes she is completely out of options. She finally agrees to the deal, promising to take down Gaston while keeping the Wraith theft name out of the mud. With the terms set, the crew starts heading out under the massive moon. Arcus looks back one last time, reminding her that he expects her to keep her promise. Kazi throws out a casual goodbye, leaving his former classmate standing there in silence. She can only whisper his name as the group disappears into the night. Standing alone in the empty alley, the chief officer cannot get one thought out of her head. She wonders if Arcus is even a real human child after what she just witnessed. Looking up at the sky, she realizes that the word prodigy is an insult to someone like him. It makes zero sense why a family would ever throw away a literal cheat code of a magician. Under the glow of the twin phantoms, Lisa reflects on the unfairness of it all. Someone with that much power should not have been dealt such a trash hand by fate. A few days pass after the rescue mission. Back at the manor, Crabe makes a loud entrance by immediately roasting Arcus for looking like a girl. Our boy is not feeling the jokes today. Asking why a normal hello is so hard, Crabe just laughs it off, telling him he will be a man eventually. Even Noah joins the roast session, claiming his academy exams were easier than dealing with this family dynamic. Arcus just sits there wishing he could disappear. The vibes shift when Crabe mentions a mystery guest. Footsteps echo in the hallway, making Arcus wonder who could possibly be visiting them now. A stylish young man strolls into the room with a chill greeting. Arcus and Noah are absolutely stunned by the sudden appearance of this sharp-dressed stranger. The newcomer loses his cool when he realizes Arcus does not recognize him. He starts yelling about their prison break, offended that the kid forgot him so fast. It finally clicks for everyone. This clean-cut gentleman is actually Kazi, looking like a totally different person now that he has finally had a shower and a haircut. Kazi is definitely feeling the heat, insisting he is the real deal, while Arcus can hardly breathe from laughing so hard. Our boy just cannot wrap his head around this unexpected glow-up. Even Noah tries to play the fun police, reminding the young master that laughing at his guest is a bit much. Arcus gives a cheeky wink and finally offers a half-hearted apology, admitting he thought the whole thing was a prank. Kazi plays it off like it was just a smart career move, but then he drops a bombshell. He looks straight at Arcus and asks for a job, leaving everyone in the room stunned. Crabe is not exactly a gentle mentor, immediately reminding the former prisoner who is boss by putting him in a headlock. Kazi is already regretting his life choices, complaining that the intense butler training almost sent him to the afterlife on day one. Reality check time. Arcus points out that his new boss is a 10-year-old with no money and asks if he really wants to sign up for this. Kazi is too busy nursing his bruised ribs from training to worry about the logistics right now. Arcus warns him that he might end up broke before things take off, but Kazi has already done the math. He is seeing nothing but dollar signs, convinced that the invention of the ethometer is their ticket to being rich. Kazi decides to bet on the kid, flashing a confident grin as he promises to stick around and see where this path leads. Arcus finally gives in with a smile, accepting the offer. Arcus makes it official by welcoming the former prisoner to the team. Kazi is all in, ready to turn this partnership into some serious profit. Elsewhere, the mood shifts as Lord Gaston finds himself answering to a higher power. The pressure in the room is suffocating as a cold voice orders him to raise his head. Lord Gaston is currently shaking in his boots as he is ordered to raise his head by a cold, commanding voice. The room goes completely still as Siron Crocelrode, the crown prince of the Laner Kingdom, steps into the light. Without wasting any time, the prince announces that he is taking full control of the investigation on behalf of his father. Every soldier in the room slams their weapon down to show their absolute loyalty to the royal command. Godwald breaks the tension for a second, informing Gaston that he is finally being given a chance to speak. The disgraced noble immediately starts groveling, offering a formal apology while desperately trying to set up a defense. He shouts that a lifetime of hard work for the kingdom should not be ignored just because of one little scandal. Gaston keeps digging, arguing that his corruption was actually a necessary evil for the kingdom's growth. The crown prince looks down at him from under his heavy headgear, sounding unimpressed as he repeats the excuse. Doubling down on the groveling, Gaston promises to work himself to death for the royals if they just let this one slide. The prince stays quiet, giving him a simple hum while he weighs the options. The prince finally speaks, telling the old man he understands his feelings and is moved by his spirit. Gaston is already lightheaded with relief, thinking he is about to walk away a free man. Inside his head, this dude is already celebrating and mocking the prince for being a softie. He thinks he can just play along until he is released, and then go right back to his old ways. His mind immediately shifts to brutal revenge plans for the brat and his friends. He wants to make them feel every bit of the pain they caused him and then some. The vibe shifts as the prince raises a hand to deliver the final judgment. It is time to see if Gaston's luck has finally run out. The prince doesn't hold back, telling Gaston that the only way he can truly serve the kingdom is by dying. The disgraced noble is left speechless, realizing he just got sentenced to a permanent end. The crown prince calls out Gaston for his shallow thinking, revealing he knew the old man would immediately start plotting a comeback. This dude actually thought he could manipulate royalty with some cheap groveling. Gaston starts sweating buckets as the realization hits that he has been played from the very beginning. The prince reminds him that all the money and power in the world cannot solve the mess he made. Spirits of Gaston's victims literally start manifesting in the room as the prince exposes the darkness lurking in his soul. The royal guard, Yurid, is ready to draw his blade and end the beast in human skin right now. Siron commands his guard to stand down, choosing to handle the execution personally. Gaston suddenly finds himself gasping for air as an invisible pressure slams him into the floor. Magic begins to crackle around the throne as the prince prepares to deliver the final judgment. There are no more deals and no more second chances left for a man this corrupt. Gaston desperately begs for help as the spell begins to erase him from reality. His time has officially run out and no amount of begging will save him from the consequences of his actions. A massive pillar of dark energy erupts in the center of the room, completely deleting Gaston from existence. Not even a single speck of dust remains of the noble who thought he was above the law. The prince asks for a status report on the mastermind. Yurid confirms that the eldest son of the Wraitheft house led the raid, and Gaston was taken out that very same night. Our prince is actually feeling the vibe. He decides he needs to personally thank this Arcus kid for doing the kingdom's dirty work. He makes it clear that any poison rotting the country from the inside has to be deleted. The corrupt noble is now nothing more than a pile of dust on the floor. Standing tall, the prince looks toward the horizon. He believes the kingdom is finally taking the right steps toward becoming a true powerhouse. A few months pass and the setting completely shifts, We're now looking at a massive high-class institution standing tall under a clear blue sky. Frederick is already bored out of his mind, letting out a huge yawn and complaining about the drag. The girl in the witch hat just sighs and asks why he even bothered showing up if he was going to be like this. He points out that blowing off an invite from the molten iron boss is a terrible move. Besides, he's got a feeling that things are about to get interesting. Frederick overlooks the massive assembly hall, admitting the whole vibe feels like a major event is brewing. Frederick lets out a huge yawn, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. He tells Mercuria he ditched some major business just to fly over here, but she isn't even slightly impressed. When he clarifies his incredibly important business was actually just a nap, Mercury tells him to go ahead and delete himself. Mercury gets serious, wondering why every top-tier state mage in the country was summoned for this one specific presentation. Muller-Quint admits she is completely clueless about why they were summoned for this meeting. She tries to get some insider info from Lohheim, but he stays professional and keeps his mouth shut. He tells her to just wait for the official reveal, leaving her to back off with an apology. Frederick is out here doing the most to get some spoilers, but Lohheim is staying on his gatekeeper grind. Mercuria calls him a flight risk, knowing he would ghost the meeting the second he got the juice. Lohheim just keeps it cool, promising that skipping this reveal would be the ultimate L. The room goes quiet as Lohheim reveals the main event is a research presentation by a complete nobody, leaving the big shots stunned. Gastark's Londiel, the legend known as the Fortress Mage, isn't easily impressed. He leans on his cane, wondering if this high-level research presentation is actually worth his time. Turns out the big shots are just as clueless as everyone else. Even after checking with Count Cremelia, no one can find a single lead on the topic. The entire assembly is filled with top-tier mages, yet the silence is deafening. This project was handled with extreme caution to keep the details under wraps. A heavy footstep echoes through the hall, signaling the start of the main event. Mercury looks up in anticipation while Frederick just tries to stay awake in the back. The Guildmaster takes the stage to thank everyone for their time. He wastes 0 seconds and announces that an important report is finally ready to drop. Suddenly, the serious vibe breaks as the Guildmaster calls out Mercury for hiding her face. The poor girl is shaking like a leaf just from being noticed by him. She finally snaps and admits his face is way too scary for her to handle. Godwald surprisingly takes it in stride, telling her to look the other way so they can get the show on the road. Mercuria is still losing her mind, but Godwald just yells at her to look away if he is that scary. The poor girl is actually sobbing while the Guildmaster has 0 patience for her drama. She goes into full panic mode, begging for her life like she is about to be executed. Gastarks just sits back and watches the show, impressed that Godwald can make a high-rank mage crumble just by standing there. The heavy vibe dies immediately when Frederick starts stretching and complaining about the meeting being too long. This guy has no fear, casually calling the legendary Guildmaster a nickname like they are best friends. Frederick keeps the casual energy going, wondering why he is even here if the big shots have not been briefed yet. Lohheim can only stare in disbelief as the kid keeps talking himself into a hole. Lohheim explains that Frederick is a second-generation problem child who clearly did not inherit any professional chill. Mercuria is quick to agree, wondering who the first-generation headache actually was. Lohheim gives him a look that says it should be obvious, glancing back at the silhouette of their terrifying leader. Some things do not even need to be said out loud. Godwald finally shuts down the gossip and bellows for everyone to focus on the main event. Turns out the rumors about him being a straight-up delinquent in his younger years were totally true. Muller-Quint is totally lost as she watches the massive commander walk in with a tiny companion. She assumes the kid is a girl and wonders why Lord Crabe brought a child to such a serious meeting. Seeing the hair color, she guesses they must be related, though she is still stuck on the idea that Arcus is a girl. Our boy is just trying to stay professional while carrying his presentation gear. Gastarks is already doing too much, predicting the kid will be a legendary beauty in a few years. Crabe has to step in and kill the mood by clarifying that Arcus is his nephew, leaving the old man visibly shaken. Frederick finally speaks up, wondering why a random kid is even allowed in the room. Crabe drops the real bombshell, announcing that this tiny 6-year-old is actually the main speaker for today. The room's collective brain just short-circuited as Frederick points a finger in pure disbelief. He cannot wrap his head around the fact that this toddler is the genius they have been waiting for. Presentation time, Arcus ignores the staring and steps up to the podium to introduce himself to the most powerful mages in the kingdom. He holds up his invention and explains it is a tool designed to measure magic as a numerical value. The elite mages can only stare in silence as they realize the world is about to change. Late at night, Crabe makes his way to a secluded garden for a secret meeting. A voice from the gazebo stops him as they call out his name. The figure inside chides him for moving behind their back. Crabe defends his choice, noting that the situation was far too critical to ignore. The King of Leinir is a total unit who looks more like a warrior than a typical ruler. He smirks to himself, already seeing how the ethometer will change everything. Staring down at the ethometer, the king of Lainur feels a bit salty that his old friend kept him in the dark. He can't believe something this powerful was built right under his nose. Formal speech doesn't sit right with the king, who tells his buddy to knock it off. Hearing Crabe act like a proper subject is giving him major goosebumps. Questions about the project's secrecy come with a joking death threat from the throne. Crabe doesn't even flinch, just laughing off the royal pressure like it's another Tuesday. Showing off a half-baked project isn't Crabe's style, and he makes that clear. He has got high standards for his work, and the king knows he isn't bluffing. Between sips from his glass, the king grills his friend on production and performance. He even tosses out a casual death threat, but Crabe just sighs at the expected intensity. A quiet moment passes between them as they consider the weight of their new discovery. The vibe in the room shifts to something much more serious. Dark wisdom about rulers being feared rather than loved flows from the king. He asks Crabe if he thinks he lacks the power to win over the hearts of the people. Crabe confirms that production is ready to roll now that the Magicians Guild has officially signed off. Hearing that everything is finally coming together, the king can't help but let out a satisfied smirk. Standardizing the magic power across the entire kingdom was supposed to be a lifelong goal, but it is being fulfilled way easier than expected. The king leans back, asking Crabe what his first move will be as the head of the magical forces. The priority is measuring every single mage's capacity so they can finally set a real standard for power. Standing tall and ornate, the ethometer is ready to be the center of this new era. Crabe plans to use the royal authority to measure every soldier in the mage units one by one. Chilling with some wine in the gazebo, the king agrees the massive scale of the device is a perfect flex for the royal house. The king jokingly asks if the soldiers will be moved to tears, or if this is just another plot with Godwald. Crabe just laughs it off, mentioning that even the scary old guildmaster was surprisingly excited about the project. The king is curious if that terrifying face actually looks different when it's smiling, but Crabe knows it stays just as scary. They share a good laugh as the conversation shifts toward their final preparations. A special gift is prepped for the prince, who is such a massive magic nerd he will likely lock himself in his room for days. Mullerquint isn't letting them off easy though, reminding everyone to actually do their jobs instead of just geeking out over the new tech. The king warns that any failure is on Crabe's head, leaving him to sigh at how unreasonable his friend is. Now then, the focus shifts back to the case. The king notes that Arcus is only 10 and already a disinherited outcast. Low magic power made him a target for his own family's hate. The king finds the story of a disinherited failure way too familiar. Crabe just looks away, admitting his nephew actually has it worse than he ever did. Arcus's power is likely around 2,000, which is totally average for a regular mage. But for a high-status military heir, that number is a complete embarrassment. Crabe admits his own magic power is over 13,000, but the king just flexes that his own is likely triple that. It leaves Crabe stumbling through a mess of royal flattery. After a quick jab at the weak flattery, the king realizes that Arcus's low power is exactly why he built this thing. He needed a way to measure what he lacked. The king realizes that knowing your exact limits allows for perfect tactical planning. Crabe remembers how the kid was already asking for specific values and margins of error during his first lesson. The king wonders if Arcus is just obsessed, but Crabe chalks his discovery up to pure luck. Our boy's talent is so unreal that the king half-jokingly wants to cut open his head just to see how it works. Crabe isn't taking any chances, warning the ruler to keep his scalpels away. The king makes it clear that he's going to use the announcement of the ethometer's creator for some serious political leverage. Crabe knows the kid is smart enough to see this coming. This presentation isn't just about science, it's a massive flex of national strength. This invention is basically a cheat code for the kingdom's reputation, whether it's used to distract from policy failures or just shown off as a once-in-a-lifetime miracle. It's a power play. The ethometer is officially the kingdom's biggest ace in the hole. Since Arcus just handed the nation its biggest win in years, the king is ready to talk rewards. He asks what a kid like that could possibly want. Crabe doesn't hesitate, knowing Arcus is looking for a powerful patron to watch his back. The king asks why they shouldn't just slap a collar on the kid to keep him close. Crabe immediately snaps back, telling him to stop trying to leash a child. The tension between the old friends flares up as they debate how to handle a child prodigy. The king just smirks, calling it the way of a ruler to trap the talented with sweet words. In his eyes, not letting someone rot away in total isolation is basically an act of mercy. He views people as tools, and Arcus is the sharpest one he's ever seen. Even the king finds it a bit strange that a 10-year-old's first wish is political backing. Crabe points out that since money and fame are already in the bag, there's nothing else left for him to ask for. The kid is thinking 10 steps ahead of everyone else. The high-ranking ruler stares intently, questioning if the boy really has that much ambition already. Crabe just laughs it off with a dismissive wave, telling him the kid mostly just wants to move up in the world. He gets to work pouring the wine, perfectly happy to follow the royal lead. A quick refill is ordered to keep the conversation flowing between the two old associates. They raise their glasses for a final toast, celebrating the continued development and growth of the kingdom. Backstage, the presentation finally ends and the whole team regroups to pack up their gear. Our boy is absolutely drenched in sweat, gasping for air as he frantically asks the crew if he actually pulled it off. The mages are losing their minds over how a 10-year-old could act so refined and mature. They're genuinely confused, wondering how anyone could have ever labeled Arcus a failure when he's this good. Noah points out that having the king's attention is a major win, and Arcus just gives a quiet, determined nod. Frederick is finally venting about how crazy it is that Arcus was ignored for this long. Any other place would have made reaching this stage impossible. According to Noah, a sudden shout from the hallway shatters the calm, sending a jolt through the air that catches the group off guard. The chaos continues as Frederick suddenly grabs the prototype and sprints out of the room with a quick salute. Frederick bolts out of the room at full speed, leaving Arcus wondering if every state mage in the country is a total weirdo. Mercuria just sighs at the spectacle, prompting our boy to finally turn and ask for her name. Mercuria stands poised in her signature witch hat. Noah immediately offers a formal bow, greeting her for the first time in a long while. Watching the interaction, Arcus can't help but ask if the two of them are actually old acquaintances. Mercuria beams with pride, announcing that Noah was her very first student when she started teaching. Noah gives a stiff, formal acknowledgement, calling her his esteemed mentor. Noah immediately shuts down the good vibes, suggesting she might have the definition of mentor all wrong. She tells him to stop being difficult and just accept the praise. Mercuria loses her cool and starts shouting about how Noah has a strong personality that does not match his calm face. Arcus stands nearby in a cold sweat, genuinely wondering which one of them is the actual adult. Someone asks if Kazi has traded his elite status to become a common servant. He admits he is loving the new life while trying to make a quiet exit from the room. Mercuria catches him in the act, demanding to know where he thinks he is going all by himself. Kazi just turns back with a smirk and gives her a casual greeting like they are old pals. Mercuria is absolutely stunned to see a familiar face in a place like this. Kazi does not miss a beat, playfully addressing her as his upperclassman. Noah looks on with zero emotion, asking if they actually know each other. Mercuria confirms he is her junior from back in their academy days, and screams in shock that he is actually working as a servant now. Kazi is losing his mind seeing a counter-formation mage in the wild. Arcus has no idea what that means, so Lohheim has to break down her legendary alias. Mercuria is basically a government secret weapon, specializing in shutting down foreign magic for the king. She fell off the map after the academy, and nobody really knows the full story. Mercuria finally spots Kazi and starts screaming his name from across the room. Our boy Arcus connects the dots and realizes Kazi was a total beast in his prime. It is a whole high school reunion as Kazi reveals they were all in the same class. Mercuria even tries to act cute, telling Arcus that this scary-looking dude is actually a big softie. Flashbacks show Kazi was the ultimate rebel who did not take notes from anybody. Arcus is still stuck on the fact that he has the face of a final boss. Lohheim tries to say he looks cleaner now, but it basically sounds like a backhanded roast. Kazi is clearly tired of the commentary and tells them to quit the fake support. Mercuria crowns Arcus as a once-in-a-century prodigy who is already state mage material. Kazi just wants to go home, while Arcus looks like he has aged 10 years from all the chaos. Frederick mentions that Mercuria has grown into a monster since their academy days, though she insists it is just because he was lazy. He notes that even Kazi is finally starting to look like his old self again. Mercuria prepares to head out with her new device and thanks Arcus for his hard work, while he tells her to get in touch if any technical issues pop up. She gives a playful wink and promises that her department will provide plenty of funding for custom orders. Frederick is impressed by how she never misses a chance to gain a professional advantage. Suddenly, Muller-Quint lunges forward and grabs Arcus by the shoulders with intense desperation. She is practically vibrating with excitement as she thanks him for creating the device. Representing the medical department, she explains that his invention will revolutionize healing magic forever. Arcus can only stammer as he is overwhelmed by her intense professional gratitude. The young inventor tries to bow back while the medical expert continues her emotional outburst. Gastark's Londiel finally steps in and tells her to stop troubling the boy so much. The rest of the elite mages gather around while Muller offers a polite apology for her sudden outburst. Gastarks tells Arcus that even the best mages find it hard to stay calm after a revelation like this. Gastark's Londiel gives Arcus his flowers, thanking him for an invention that will save magic from being lost. Our boy is just happy to be recognized by a legend. Turning to the scary guildmaster, Gastarks asks about the official rewards. Godwald keeps it professional, noting the king needs to make the final call on their prize. The elite mages are all in agreement while Lohheim watches on with a satisfied smirk. Everyone is finally on the same page regarding the discovery. Arcus wraps up the meeting with a deep bow thanking the heavy hitters for their time. Mission accomplished for today. Suddenly, Count Cremelia drops a hand on his shoulder and gives him the ultimate seal of approval. The high-level praise has Arcus looking a little stunned by the support. Seizing the moment, Arcus admits he has a major favor to ask. The Count is all ears and tells the boy to speak his mind. He drops the bombshell request to keep his father in the dark about this whole success. The Count keeps it real, reminding him that his dad is bound to find out sooner or later. Arcus explains that this is just a way to buy time and mount a small resistance before things get real. The Count looks him in the eye and asks point blank if he actually hates his own father. Straight up, yes. He looks the man dead in the eye with zero hesitation. The Count suggests using the device for leverage now is a bit premature. He warns that while it will be a tool for confrontation later, you should never start a fight. You cannot win. It is a heavy moment. The Count asks if it is not just sad for a father and son to be at war like this. And while Arcus agrees, he knows some battles are just unavoidable. The old man stares off, his expression turning cold. He mutters that this struggle might just be the inescapable destiny of the entire family line. Arcus is left wondering what he means by fate, but the Count immediately shuts it down. He brushes it off as a slip of the tongue and tells the boy to just ignore it. Shifting gears, the Count looks at him with genuine curiosity. He asks what our boy is actually aiming for in the long run. Arcus looks away and admits he does not have all the answers yet. The Count just takes it in, staring off into the distance. A sharp gaze from the old man follows. He tells Arcus not to forget who he is while he is chasing his goals. A sharp gaze from the old man follows. He tells Arcus not to forget who he is while he is chasing his goals. Cut to a high-class party hosted by the Londiel family. Joshua and Lucia are out in their best gear, ready to mingle with the elite. Joshua is already putting the squeeze on his daughter, telling her she needs to start acting like a proper heir. Lucia just nods along, clearly feeling the pressure of the moment. The host of the party, Casista, makes his way over to greet them. Joshua immediately pivots into full sycophant mode, bowing his head before the man even speaks. It is a total cringe fest as Joshua acts like a complete small fry to stay in the host's good books. He practically apologizes for even having a title as he sucks up to the man with the wine. Joshua is hitting new levels of cringe as he bows down to Casista. He basically tells the guy he is just a lucky small fry who inherited a leftover title, doing everything he can to stay in the host's good graces. The host shifts the spotlight to Lucia, asking how her magic training is going. She plays it cool and mentions she can finally blast through stone with her fire javelin. Casista is definitely impressed and gives Joshua some credit for the girl's progress. Joshua just keeps up the fake humble act, acting like he still has a lot to learn. The host starts wondering if Lucia is feeling the pressure of being compared to her father. Lucia's expression stays guarded while a memory of Arcus flickers in the background. She admits her father is a powerful mage, but the vibe suddenly shifts. Joshua's eyes go wide as a very important guest makes an entrance, and he immediately shouts out for his own father. Joshua pivots back into sycophant mode to greet the old man with zero chill. The grandfather takes a look around and notes how many lovely daughters have gathered for the party today. He singles out Lucia, mentioning how she will be even more stunning in a few years. Joshua is just happy to agree, while Lucia stands there trembling from the sheer pressure. Casista wonders what the occasion is, and the patriarch simply says he felt like a family gathering today. Joshua stands in the background already looking like he wants to disappear. Joshua is sweating bullets. He can barely find the words to ask if the news he just heard is actually legit. The host makes it clear that the creator's identity is a secret. Joshua just grits his teeth and agrees, knowing he cannot push for more info. The Marquis turns his gaze toward the kids. He asks if that silver hair belongs to the Wraitheft bloodline. Time for the formal intro. Joshua presents his daughter, and Lucia nails the curtsy like a total pro. The old man is definitely feeling the vibe. He praises her for the proper response and says he has high hopes for her future. Then he drops a massive reveal. He tells Lucia he met her brother earlier and warns her that she better keep grinding or she will get left in the dust. Joshua completely loses his cool and shouts for the patriarch's attention. He begs for forgiveness while demanding to know what exactly those cryptic words earlier were supposed to mean. The old man just shuts him down, saying it is not his place to spill the tea right now. Left with no other choice, Joshua just forces out a nervous laugh to hide the absolute panic. Scene shifts back to the manor, where the vibe gets heavy as Crabe and Joshua sit down for a serious talk. Crabe thanks him for showing up, while Joshua keeps it strictly formal with his big brother. Crabe wonders why his brother is acting so stiff before the mood shifts entirely. Joshua drops the thermometer on the table and makes it clear he wants some straight answers right now. Crabe picks up the device, wondering how Joshua even managed to bring a top-secret tool like this home. Joshua just plays it off, claiming he was given special permission to borrow it. Crabe is not buying the act for a second and calls him out for definitely using some blackmail to get his way. Joshua does not even deny it, his expression hardening as the truth stays hidden in his eyes. Joshua snaps back that it was something he absolutely had to do, no matter the cost. Lucia just watches from the side, looking completely unsettled by the intensity coming from her father. Lucia asks what she is looking at, clearly curious about the strange device. Joshua calmly explains that it is a tool used to measure the amount of magical power someone has. The realization hits her like a truck. She can hardly believe a device like this actually exists. But her father confirms it is a genuine ethometer. Joshua turns his focus to his brother, asking point blank if he was the one who built it. Crabe just leans back, casually denying that he had anything to do with its creation. Thinking his brother is just playing hard to get, Joshua calls him out for trying to hide the truth. He makes it clear that he knows Crabe does not have the skills to pull off something this complex on his own. Losing his patience, Joshua slams the table and demands to know exactly where the device came from if his brother did not make it. Crabe tells him to chill out, admitting he probably should have handled the situation better. On the side, Lucia is caught in the middle of their heated argument. Lucia is left in awe, thinking about how such a legendary invention could even be possible. She stares at the device, wondering who the mastermind behind it really is. Lesia spots some handwriting on the device that looks way too familiar. She realizes she is looking at her own brother's signature. Memories of everything Arcus has done start flooding back to her. A soft smile hits her face as she finally admits that her brother is truly on another level. Crabe tells Joshua to return the stolen device and promises to look the other way just this once. Joshua just stands there, clearly struggling with what to do next. Joshua starts to get passionate, but Crabe shuts him down. He repeats that if he was the mastermind behind the invention, he would have told him by now. The tension between the two brothers is thick enough to cut with a knife. Crabe uses a childhood nickname to try and reach him, but Joshua can only grit his teeth in silence. Lucia cuts through the awkward vibe, telling her father that she knows what he is really after. She realizes he is desperate to hear the truth from his brother's own lips. She drops a truth bomb that hits like a freight train. Joshua needs his brother to be the genius because the alternative means his failure of a son is actually a god-tier prodigy. Uncle Crabe calls Lucia over and hands her a custom gift. Our girl is completely shook, barely able to believe the box is actually for her. He explains that the creator specifically wanted her to have it. Knowing the gift is from her brother, she pulls the device close to her chest with a soft whisper. Lucia resolves to level up her skills so she never gets left behind. Crabe just smirks and heads out, leaving a salty Joshua to cope and seethe in the background. 2 years have passed since the big ethometer presentation. Our boy Arcus is officially 12 now and looking way more refined than before. He is finally hitting a growth spurt. His build is slowly starting to look more like a young man's, even if it is just a modest change. The girliness just will not go away. He is starting to wonder if his face is cursed, but at least everything else is changing. Things are getting a bit lonely at the manor. Lucia is grinding her way toward being the next head of the house, which means they barely see each other anymore. But distance is not stopping our boy from staying connected. He is officially starting a regular letter exchange with a certain someone. Charlotte is 14 now and has been putting in work at a magic academy for a year. Between her anti-magic studies and swordsmanship, she is even asking for a rematch. Turns out the whole letter idea was her initiative from the start. Charlotte Cremelia is not about to let their connection fade away. Arcus is officially in his planning era. He has already sent his top guys to the royal capital to scout for some prime real estate. Living with the Wraithefs is not the move. No cap. With the ethometer money finally hitting his account, he is ready to upgrade his lifestyle and find a place of his own. The dream home project is finally a go. He is ready to secure his own spot and leave all the family drama in the rearview mirror. Real estate is not the only thing on his mind, though. He is still out here deciphering ancient scrolls and testing new magic prototypes like a boss. Back at the garden, even the trees are hitting a growth spurt. Bucket in hand, it is time to see what this huge trunk can really do. A simple twist of the handle and water starts flowing from a faucet in the tree. He fills up the bucket and prepares for the next step. Down in the storage cellar, a magic circle keeps the vibes chilled. The temperature management is elite, which is exactly what he needs for the next phase. Arcus pops the lid on his latest cooking session, and it looks like the timing is perfect. Dipping in a ladle, our boy is officially hyped with the results. Presenting the legendary Soma wine, he offers a taste to the team, but Crabe is just stunned that his basement secret was a whole brewery. Noah is having a total midlife crisis over a 6-year-old making booze, feeling like a failure as an attendant. Crabe is still stuck on the fact that a literal child crafted this. Arcus pulls out the receipts, showing off an old recipe book he found in the library. Seeing that the book is basically a guide for illegal brewing explains the suspicious looks he is getting. After some sweating and begging, the duo finally agrees to give it a taste. One sip and the vibes are unmatched. Noah admits it is actually fire, while Crabe is losing it over a sweetness he has never tasted before. Arcus is soaking up the praise, but he is already onto his next discovery. Arcus drops a bombshell by asking if the drink actually buffs their magic power. Crabe and Noah are blindsided by the suggestion. After taking another sip, the duo admits they actually feel a difference. Arcus explains he just had a gut feeling about the mana boost during his training session. A light bulb goes off as Arcus realizes he might have just invented a mana potion. The possibilities for battle are already spinning in his head. The adults are quick to shut down the hype. They agree that while mana is important, chugging homebrew like water is a recipe for disaster. Feeling a bit shy, Arcus wonders if he should offer a taste to his uncle as an apology. He is worried that hiding such a big find might be a bad look. Noah brings him back to reality with a reminder of the last time Crabe got heated. Apparently, planting a giant tree without permission was enough to ruin his entire week. The thought of an angry uncle is enough to make Arcus crumble. He begs Noah to keep the basement brewery a secret for the sake of his own survival. Out at the Aben training grounds, a peaceful afternoon is cut short by a sudden sting. Kazi grumbles while holding a fresh apple, nursing a minor injury while he tries to relax. Resting in the shade, the duo discusses the trail of destruction their master leaves behind. Arcus apparently wrecked the mansion during his latest magic experiments, forcing everyone out to the mountains. Noah stays professional while bandaging a cut, pointing out that a master with this much drive is actually a blessing. Kazi just takes the help, trying his best not to get blood on his clean clothes. The attendant admits that finding someone as interesting as the young lord is a rare gift. Kazi lets out a laugh, forced to agree that their lives are anything but boring now. Staring out at the view, Kazi jokes about working for that legendary wine alone because it tastes so good. Noah tells him to stop being a loser and get back to work before a sudden shock catches them both off guard. A violent sound suddenly thunders through the trees, nearly making them jump out of their skin. They realize the blast came from exactly where Arcus was supposed to be training. Racing into the clearing, they find Arcus standing in the center of a magical aura. The kid looks focused as he tests out the limits of a secret high-level technique. Arcus gets to work, manifesting multiple magic circles that hum with pure power. He starts layering the formulas, prepping to unleash something massive. Our boy doesn't hold back, calling for a focus blast as he pushes his mana to the limit. He lets it rip, a beam of pure energy tearing through the clearing with enough force to shake the entire forest. The noise is deafening, leaving the kid scrambling to cover his ears while he stares at the giant crater he just carved into the earth. Once the dust settles, he starts jumping for joy, because his experiment was a total success. He can't believe the output, noting that the mana cost is insanely low for such a high-level result. Even if his control is a bit shaky, this is already a game changer for his combat kit. Looking out at the destruction, he realizes just how fun magic can actually be when you're breaking the rules. The excitement quickly catches up to him, leaving him a bit winded from the sheer scale of the blast. His ears are still ringing like crazy, so he makes a mental note to craft some magical earplugs for next time. With the test finished, he looks ahead, already planning his next move. Arcus begins a deep chant, his words carrying a weight that shifts the entire forest vibe. Noah and Kazi watch from the trees, realizing the kid is about to drop a heavy spell. Magic circles stack up along his arm as the incantation reaches its peak. The air begins to hum with concentrated mana, ready to be unleashed. Fire. He lets loose the spinning magic barrage, a relentless stream of energy that leaves no room for escape. Tall trees are shredded into splinters in the blink of an eye. The sheer scale of the ruins leaves Kazi and Noah speechless as the woods are dismantled. Smoke drifts over the wreckage of what used to be a thick grove. Arcus exhales, already calculating how to shrink the mana cost for his next attempt. Kazi and Noah scramble toward the boy, unable to process the destruction they just witnessed. Arcus just gives them a goofy look, feeling like his magic and bullets might be a bad match. The sight is enough to make Kazi question what kind of monster he is actually working for. Noah stays silent, his mind racing as he realizes this magic was designed for wide-scale destruction. Noah surveys the absolute chaos, noting that one shot was enough to turn the forest into a disaster zone. He admits the magic is completely alien, but finds the kid even more interesting than the blast. Noah is curious about the inspiration for such a spell, and asks what exactly he based it on. Arcus plays it off with a sheepish look, claiming it is just too hard to explain. Kazi thinks the kid is getting a little too cocky, while Noah pushes for a real answer about the secret. Arcus goes quiet for a moment, the atmosphere getting heavy as he gets ready to speak. Looking out at the destruction, Arcus casually mentions that his magic is based on things that do not exist in this world. Before they can even wrap their heads around that, he laughs and tells them he is just joking. A peaceful garden terrace serves as the backdrop for a tense royal meeting. Prince Siron Crocel Road hosts an important guest as the tea begins to flow. The blonde envoy takes a sip of her tea, looking sharp and composed. She notes that the kingdom's mage division has supposedly reached a whole new level of proficiency lately. Saron leans back with a smug grin, looking completely unfazed. He credits the sudden improvement to his mage's raw effort and calls himself a blessed king. She acknowledges the kingdom's magical edge but doesn't drop the subject. Her expression grows serious as she mentions a rumor she heard while traveling from the Union. The rumors claim that Siron has secured a mysterious tool capable of boosting a mage's skill level. She keeps her eyes locked on him, looking for any sign of a slip-up. Seiron waves off the accusation with a cocky laugh and a dismissive hand. He insists it is just a baseless rumor, started by rivals who are jealous of the kingdom's talent. She isn't convinced and leans in to press him further. She calmly reminds him that where there is smoke, there is almost always a fire. Seiron isn't backing down from the pressure. He casually offers the envoy a full tour of his mage division to prove he has nothing to hide. She isn't buying the act for a second. Deep down, she is certain the kingdom is keeping a massive secret under wraps and intends to find out what it is. The question is, who or what are they hiding so desperately? Elsewhere, the scene shifts to a massive manor where someone is clearly having a very bad day. Our boy Arcus is officially 12 now, but instead of celebrating, he is drowning in a literal sea of paperwork. He screams at the top of his lungs, wondering how his life became a never-ending office nightmare. It is just documents as far as the eye can see. He vents his frustration, claiming a kid his age should be outside playing instead of doing enough desk work to break a grown man. He tries to play the kid card to get out of it, but Noah and Kazi just stare him down. They tell him they completely forgot he was even a child, leaving him to point at himself in total disbelief. Arcus is losing his mind over the mountain of documents on his desk. He screams that this is basically child labor, and he belongs on a playground, not in an office. Noah offers to handle the summaries, which makes him a hero in the eyes of our MC. He praises the attendant as a real lifesaver. The celebration ends abruptly as a huge new stack of paperwork slams onto the desk. It looks like the grind never truly stops. Noah explains that these are just simple copying tasks from this morning. Arcus looks ready to pass away while Kazi watches the pure savagery. Reaching out with a shaky hand, he asks for the next stack. Kazi is stunned that the kid is still willing to go. Determination fills his eyes as he locks in. He tells them he has a secret trick to get through the sea of paper. Magical runes begin to glow as he prepares to unleash a high-level transcription spell. He claims no scribe could ever match the speed of his perfect forgery technique. Arcus unleashes a high-level forgery spell to speed-run the mountain of paperwork. Glowing runes cover the desk as he copies documents with perfect precision. No scribe alive could match this level of efficiency. Noah and Kazi are stunned by the result. Every single page is perfectly filled in and sorted. They can barely believe how fast our boy actually worked. Noah asks what kind of magic they just witnessed. Arcus looks like he has been through the trenches as he explains his secret copier spell. It creates a flawless replica every single time. He starts tossing the completed papers into the air while laughing like a mad scientist. Modern printing technology has officially arrived. The attendants watch in silence as their boss has a mental breakdown. The job is finally finished. Arcus celebrates his big win while calling out his butler for being a slave driver. He is officially done with this office. He bolts for the exit before anyone can give him another assignment. He claims his mana is at 0, and he is taking an emergency break. The grind is finally over. Outside in the courtyard, Arcus screams with joy. Noah was actually going to bring some tea, but the kid is already long gone. He is finally free from the paperwork prison. Arcus stands alone in the middle of a deserted town square. It looks like it is about to rain, and our boy is starting to realize that running away was the easy part. A mysterious voice starts calling out from the shadows, making Arcus spin around in confusion. He looks around frantically, trying to find where the sound is coming from. Out of nowhere, a tiny hooded figure appears right in front of him with a cheerful greeting. The hood is a dark void except for 2 glowing white curves that look like eyes. Arcus is caught off guard and stammers out a greeting. He looks at this weird mini-mage and wonders if he is even dealing with a human. Our MC gets a closer look at the figure and notices it has 0 facial features under that hood. The vibe gets even weirder when the shadow creature actually says his name. The tiny figure extends a sleeve and asks Arcus if they can be friends. It is a super surreal moment in the middle of a ghost town. Arcus hesitantly takes the hand and agrees to the friendship. He is still confused, but a handshake is a handshake. Our MC is completely caught off guard. He cannot wrap his head around how a total stranger in a ghost town knows his name. The figure drops his full name like it is common knowledge. Arcus is officially on edge, realizing his secret identity might not be as secret as he thought. Instead of a straight answer, the kid pulls some random acrobatics while giving a total non-answer. Arcus is still stuck on the pavement, trying to figure out if he is dealing with a human or a ghost. Finally, the figure reveals his name is Gone. He asks if it rings a bell, sending Arcus deep into his memory bank for any scrap of info. The realization hits like a ton of bricks as the lore drops. Gone is not just some kid. He is the fairy of the dead, a supernatural entity straight out of the most ancient fairy tales. Legend says he wanders the Garden of Eternal Sleep, guiding lost souls with a ghost light. His songs are meant to keep spirits at peace so they never accidentally wander back into the land of the living. This song is widely known across the world as a tribute to the spirit's work. It serves as a reminder to be grateful for the entity that keeps the boundary between life and death locked tight. This spirit entity spends his days tending to flower beds, offering prayers at lonely graves, and singing to the spirits. He is the silent protector of the souls that have moved on. People call him the cemetery keeper and the guardian of the underworld. He is a legendary figure that most folk only hear about in old stories. Reality is finally sinking in for our MC. He cannot believe a fairy tale is standing right in front of him, especially since they are nowhere near a cemetery. Gon is officially on a mission. He came here specifically to see Arcus and is not trying to hide it. The little hooded entity gets straight to the point. He needs a favor and thinks our boy is the perfect person to help. There is no time for second guessing. The trip is starting right now, whether Arcus is ready for it or not. The quiet moment is over because a whole squad of familiar faces just crashed the party. Arcus is officially overwhelmed by how big this group has become. Our boy is losing his mind because the entire squad just pulled up out of nowhere. Mercuria mentions they only showed up because they heard the fairy needed some help. Charlotte steps forward with a warm smile and asks to join the party. She tells him she has been grinding since their last encounter and will not be a burden. She is fully confident she can be useful in this mission. Arcus is still looking completely flustered while his sister Lecia just watches from the side. Lecia points out that having more magic users around is always better. Arcus tries to tell them to go home for their own safety, but nobody is moving. Mercuria jumps into the conversation with a better idea. She suggests they stop putting everything on Arcus and rely on Gon instead. She asks the hooded entity if they can assist him. Gon is genuinely surprised by the offer, while Arcus worries about the group getting into a dangerous mess. Mercuria insists they know the risks and want to help him go all out. Gon reminds them that they are still kids, and his job as a fairy is to keep them protected. It is official, and the girls are already celebrating the new alliance. Arcus is just standing there wondering how his life got this complicated. Gon promises to keep the danger to a minimum, but Arcus feels like he is the only one not invited to the grown-up table. He is tired of the constant babysitting. Charlotte wants to know the tea on their relationship. Sue casually mentions they are magic study partners, leaving Arcus to facepalm in the background. The vibe gets weird when Arcus notices the formal way Charlotte is speaking. He asks why she is treating his floating friend like some kind of high-ranking VIP. The silence is deafening as a clock ticks in the background. Charlotte cannot believe he is this clueless, while Sue tries to whistle her way out of the awkwardness. Charlotte finally spills the beans about Sue being the daughter of the Duke of Argusia. Our girl just gives a cheeky smile now that the cat is out of the bag. Arcus is practically short-circuiting after hearing about the royal connection. Sue apologizes for the secret, but he is realizing his new friend is way more important than he thought. Sue waves off the formal talk with a giggle. She tells them to just drop the titles and keep it casual from now on. Sue goes full gremlin mode and starts squishing the face of our boy like a stress toy. Charlotte is just standing there with a dark aura, and you can tell her patience is officially cooked. Charlotte hits them with that terrifying polite smile that means she is about to crash. She calmly suggests Sue needs to find a little thing called respect. The vibe is getting heavy as Charlotte continues to fume in the corner. Lucia is just nervously watching from the sidelines, while Sue refuses to let go of the arm of Arcus. Charlotte finally asks why Sue is standing so close. Our girl just looks back with a straight face and asks if there is actually a problem. Charlotte tries to mark her territory by reminding everyone he is her fiancé. Sue hits her with the ultimate counter and asks if that engagement was not already cancelled. Sue doubles down and pulls him into a full hug since he is technically a free agent. Charlotte is completely short-circuiting and turns a bright shade of red. Charlotte finally loses her cool and shouts that there is definitely a problem. While Sue continues to cling to him, Charlotte decides she is done playing nice and grabs his arm to pull him away. It turns into a total tug of war with Arcus trapped right in the middle. Both girls are pulling as hard as they can while our boy just prays he does not get torn in half. The death glares are out in full force as the two rivals lock eyes. Charlotte lets out a menacing laugh while Arcus desperately begs his sister for a rescue. The tension breaks when Lecia runs up to the hooded figure to see how she can help. She is all smiles and asks Gon what her role is going to be in this mission. The vibe gets serious as the hooded entity addresses the group. He tells them he needs their help to track down and catch some specific targets. The group listens in shock as the real mission is revealed. Gon explains that people who have broken the ultimate taboos have finally appeared in the city. That's it for today, guys. If you made it to the end, comment OP bro so I know you're real ones. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Until then, keep on cooking.